Hello, everyone, and welcome to Taking Back the Narrative podcast. We are continuing to talk about the post October 7th genocide reality. I'm here to welcome my special guest for this evening, Brandon Weaver. Brandon, I want to thank you so much. So, I'm not exactly sure the exact point when you and I met on Facebook, but I do remember the topic of interest that I had when we did start to communicate, and it was about pro Arab Jews, right? This was right after after the Abraham Accords, the euphoria surrounding that. And I felt myself in sort of a minority amongst at least the social media Jewish community. I was so thrilled with the Abraham Accords. We'll definitely delve into this a little bit later, or actually soon on this podcast. And I had so many warnings like don't trust the Arabs. Why are you pro-Arab? They all want to kill Jews. What's wrong with you? You're a traitor for wanting to go to Dubai. And I found solace in in you. And you said that, there is some positivity to these accords. You and I started talking. So I just want to thank you for your friendship. I also want to thank you for the hours of riveting back and forth messages where lately we've just been in the what the F is going on with Israel, with America, with the
Oh my God.
West. Just every day it's what the F basically. So we're going to dissect a lot. So with that, I think most of the audience by now, this is the fifth episode, knows a little bit of background of me. I was anti-Israel for nearly 20 years. And I don't know if you know my story, but I was growing up in a Zionist home. I had my bat mitzvah on top of Masada, transliterated, but it was there. And came home super Zionist, couldn't shut up about my trip to Israel. And within a year, I started reading the New York Times, watching CNN, and that was the beginning of I would say, intermediate end of my being pro Israel. And so suddenly I discovered the world was upset with Israel over something called settlements. I was embarrassed about Israel every time I was on the news. I felt like, oh my gosh, why do I need to defend Israel all the time? Uh, when I would see the IDF, of course, now I'm so proud to see the bombing pictures of Gaza. But back then, I was embarrassed whenever the IDF would be in the news. It's like, can we not be so loud on the world stage? And then after college, I moved to New York, joined Jewish organizations, and they were talking about Palestinians. So now there's an ethnicity called Palestinians, apparently, and that all the Jews left for 2,000 years. We came back as victims of the Holocaust in 1945. There was some magic man called Herzl who apparently created Israel, and on and on and on. And so, actually, being part of Jewish organizations reinforced my anti-Israel stance, right? So how could we leave a land for 2,000 years, come back and feign that we're from a land that we left for 2,000 years? What about these poor Palestinians? We'll get into how there's not a separate ethnicity called Palestinians. We are Palestinians. And so it was just a cycle of misinformation. And I woke up in 2014. I became a Zionist. It was a somewhat intermediate flow into Zionism. And what helped me become a really proud and passionate one was historical facts and accuracy. And so I founded Taking Back Narrative. So, Brandon, again, thank you so much for your time. I know that it's very odd hours in Israel right now. And so, if you can tell the audience a little bit more about yourself, if you had a journey into Zionism, what brought you to Israel. You're American, right? I'm
Yep.
assuming from your accent. And so just to tell us a little bit more.
Sure. So, I mean, I've always been a Zionist, I've always, I mean, even if anybody who understands, like, even a little bit about this, you understand, like, if you have any moral clarity, Israel's the good guy. Like, they're too good, which we'll get into later, like, too good to the point where it's insane, to their own detriment. But yeah, no, I visited here, and then actually, I was in the process of making Aliyah. I was with a girl at the time. We were together. That didn't work out, and then I ended up meeting my wife later, and so we ended up having kids. We bought a place, and here I am. And I've been here for over 11 years now. Can't believe it. It's just like boom, like 2 seconds. It went by so fast. So and it's a crazy place. It's insane, but it's great.
And how was
And
your
the
adjustment?
land is amazing. Our country are run by idiots, but we'll get into that.
So I just have a personal question. So you did you have any family members that were Israeli, or everyone was American growing up?
Everybody's American. Everybody's back in the States.
So how was your transition when you made Aliyah?
It wasn't too bad. Luckily the girls at the time she did help me out with some stuff. They're okay. You know what I mean? They're good for like the basic stuff. If you have like one one more person on Twitter, I'm trying to help her out. She has a lot of issues. She's having some issues with them, but for me, it was okay. I can't complain. My transition wasn't too bad.
So
It was okay.
the reason I asked, you're probably one of the only people on Facebook who made Aliyah who has not complained about the Aliyah process whenever we've been talking. So I figured something must have gone right in your experience. So that's great to hear. So yeah, to circle back to what I had mentioned. So we connected over the Abraham Accords. To me, I was in this euphoria. So I wanted to find out your stance. Where do you stand now versus pre October 7th on the Abraham Accords?
I mean, I still have. It's the funny thing is, I feel strongly. I think the relationship that we have with the countries that we made peace with, the Abraham Accords, is still better than the country that we've had peace with for the long time. Like the ones we've had peace with, Jordan and Egypt, they freaking hate us more than they do. You know what I mean? Like if you just, I mean, you've been there. I haven't actually been there, but that's just people I've talked to from there. Like people in the UAE, they people. I remember in Jordan, they had like an October 7th restaurant. Like you don't see that like in the UAE or in Saudi, even in Saudi Arabia, they haven't officially made peace with us yet. But you don't see that. So I'm still optimistic about it, But I guess I'm cautiously optimistic. I guess would be like
And what about the policies? So have you, okay, I'm so sorry if you had said this, but our audience doesn't know. Have you had a chance to visit the UAE yet?
no, we were gonna go, but then we decided not to. Like that's weird thing of going like the summer vacation, but we decided not to with everything going on.
Mhm.
Like we'd probably be okay. The like as well, you know this, you've been there. Like only like was it 11 or 12% of the country is actually like Emiratis, and it's mostly people from like elsewhere. So I'm
Mhm.
not worried about the natives, and I know that laws are strict that we'd probably be okay, but we decided to kind of hold it out. We're just going to chill in the country this year for vacation.
That's what I
Yeah.
wanted to address. So again, this is why it's so important, I think, for Jews. First of all, I think all Jews need to travel to some Arab countries. I wish all Jews were to travel prior to October 7th to Egypt. And I was not joking around when I said I don't know if you saw my post, I said if all the Jews traveled to Egypt and saw the security that Egypt has internally and against Gaza, there would be riots not against Netanyahu for chocolate bribes and champagne and all that other crap that he was accused of, but there would be riots in the streets about how lax the security was in Israel compared to Egypt, compared even to Jordan. And so I got a chance to travel to UAE, and unfortunately I'll say that there's a huge difference between going to Arab countries with Jewish groups and non-Jewish groups. So my first time was with a Jewish group, and everything was just kumbaya. We love Jews. Let's forget the last, couple decades where we erased Israel from the maps in our schools. We were traveling on a bus. It was with American Friends of Magen David Adom. So we had a huge Magen David on the bus. Our obviously driver was Muslim, Emirati. Well, actually not Emirati, but was Muslim. Everything great. We went to the first Holocaust exhibit in all of the Arab world, which was also in Dubai. It was like being in this alternate universe. Like, what is this, right? And never would I imagine that less than 2 years later, the UAE would suspend diplomatic relations. I don't know if they reinstated, but they suspended it over those pro-terrorist aid workers,
Right.
the World Kitchen something something. So
Shady organization. Sorry, go ahead.
no, exactly. So then I go back to the UAE along with the rest of the Arab world on a cruise with my mom, non-Jewish. And so we did 3 days in Dubai, and it was a completely different experience. So we were with a Indian Muslim tour guide and a Pakistani Muslim driver. So they get along great outside of their home countries. And plus, like, they're both Muslim. So they never asked us what our ethnicity was. Like, if asked, we would tell, but like, we also were under, kind of a caution because we knew who they were. So we're like, okay, don't ask, don't tell. Like, but if asked, we will say. And so they took us to Sharjah, which is a very, I would say, like a much more religious place north of Dubai. And it was at a museum, like the Islamic Civilization Museum. And there was this replica of what they call Al Aqsa. And our tour guide went on again, like they didn't know that we were Jews, went on a rant against how Israel is stealing Al Quds, I mean, just like on and on and on. And my mom and I looked at each other like, you know me, like I was ready to like slug the guy, but I also knew he was our only ride back to Dubai, and we did not want to be stuck with a bunch of pseudo jihadists
Self-preservation
up in
sometimes.
Sharjah.
Yeah.
So that was my first experience where I realized, like, I saw for myself, right? So it's 12% of Emiratis, like you said. Um, Not that they're actually pro-Israel, it's just that they fall in line with whatever the ruling family does. Like if the ruling family would tell them jump off the bridge, literally they all would jump off the bridge because the ruling family makes the ultimate and the right decisions. So they were not protesting. But what they're dealing with is the majority of the Muslims that are coming in from Bangladesh and Pakistan. And for those who don't know, who are tuning in, I mean, in Pakistan, they are so anti-Israel that on their passports, it literally says, applicable in all countries except for Israel.
Oh wow.
That's how much they hate us. And I really saw that. And so they allow Arab occupiers living in parts of Israel, Judea and Samaria to travel to Dubai. They're making a big splash there. So the protests did not happen in person, but I definitely saw a lot of activity online from Dubai. So just something to be caught. I'm not saying to avoid going to Dubai. Dubai, I mean, is it more beautiful than Israel? Not at all. Israel is the most beautiful country that I have seen in the Middle East, but it's something to see, but I would take it for what it is, right? It's like a rich playground in the Middle East. There we should thank them for, like not being aggressive towards Israel, but not to, again, this is my opinion, you can counter if you wish, but my opinion is we need to be more realistic, right? So at the end of the day, I think what October 7th showed us Jews, no matter what, like no matter what an Arab ruler's moral clarity is, like I'm sure that the Saudi crown prince was not promoting, right, like the genocide, but at the end of the day they also have populations, and Arabs are always going to have loyalty to other Arabs no matter what. So
Anti-Islam.
I think that for me, I think that brought it back down to reality.
I agree that I think that I what I used to tell people, and I still kind of hold on to this, is that instead of peace, you should hope for like prolonged tranquility. You
I
know what I
like
mean?
that. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like just let's not kill each other. Let's get in arguments and deterrence and all that good stuff. Let's just we should be big swinging. You know what? I'm trying to swear too much. We should just be tough and
Right.
strong because that's what works. Like
Mm-hmm.
we shouldn't be this self-deprecating, capitulating. Like that doesn't that looks look weak, and in their eyes they will look at us weak. We
Mm-hmm.
should be strong, and this is one other thing too. It's October 7th. I'm getting sort of on topic, but people like I'm tired of people pointing to October 7th to people who hate us and say, no, no, look what they did to us. Look what they did to us. You're not going to make people love you, dude. But you can make them respect you. But you have to respect yourself first, and you have to show force, and you have to believe in who you are and to know that you're right, and be Like, you know what do you know what I'm saying? Like being like more forceful, and you're not gonna make people love you. You're not, but you can force them to respect you.
You brought up such a great you brought up such a great point, like not to use it's like the Jews in America who use the Holocaust, right? It's like you need to go to a Holocaust museum because they hate us. Now we're gonna like show them images from the Holocaust and they're no longer gonna hate us. And so do you follow that comedian Modi at all?
Yeah, he's funny. I've heard it before. He's really good.
Did you see his clip that he said? It was so on point. He said, the worst thing we can do with the anti-Semites is bring them to Holocaust museums because they're going to go in and be like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. So it's the same thing for the genocide, right? It's like showing these clips to anti-Semites. It's not going to make them love us. It's going to elicit two emotions, right? Like, okay, well, this is the Jews' fault because the Jews are occupying Palestine, so they
Mhm.
deserve this. We hear that all the time. The other emotion is great. Like I love seeing this. Like I hate Jews and like I hate
Yeah,
it.
Hate them Loves is
Like
great. It's like a
right,
movie for
right.
them. Like, right, all right.
Exactly. So like I think that it's like, and we could talk about liberals and how they use the Holocaust and they only care about the Holocaust and they only care about dead Jews, and the liberals, the Jewish liberals who have Jewish blood on their hands, because they only care about dead Jews, they never cared about the living Jews in Israel, like at
You mean the
all.
ones who continue to vote Democratic Party that sends money to
Exactly.
want to murder us? Those? Yes.
Yeah, those.
Yeah,
So
those, yeah.
yeah, so and I don't know. I mean, but then I also fear for the Abraham. Okay, so before we're going to, okay, so for those who are tuning in, we are really going to rail into Netanyahu in less than a minute. But before we do, I have to give him some respect because Netanyahu, Trump gets all the credit, I think falsely, for the Abraham Accords. Even worse, Kushner gets credit, and I was so disgusted to learn that it was Kushner who strong armed Israel against the what was it called, like the Jerusalem embassy clause, because it was Israel who wanted all of the Abraham Accord countries to move their embassies to Jerusalem, and
And
Kushner
Kushner made so they didn't have to do that?
and
Really?
his
I didn't know
accomplice,
that.
Berkowitz, yeah, they're the ones who strong armed Israel. So, and I think Trump got false credit because, like, and again, I'm a super Trump supporter, enthusiastic,
Yeah.
but I also don't want to be a sycophant, right? I want to be like, oh yeah, he did everything perfectly. He did not, and especially when it comes to Israel. Like, first of all, he did that disastrous. And I know it was a ruse and everything, and I know that they knew that Abbas was not going to accept the $50 billion. But remember that peace plan that they were trying to uh, do with Abbas,
Vaguely.
like
They're
something
talking
like that.
about.
So
Yeah.
yeah, like they had internal information that Abbas would say no. But what if Abbas had woken up smart one day and decided to take that $50 billion? There would have been a terrorist state under Trump in Israel.
Right. I forgot about that. That's right.
And
I do remember hearing about it now you mentioned vaguely, but yeah,
it
they're
was
right. That's definitely a faux pas. Big time.
yeah, and so the Abraham Accords, like first of all, it was actually the UAE. It was the first one to even like think of it, and this was far before 20. When were the Abraham Accords? 2020, right? For
2020, right? When he
2020.
left office?
Yeah, so it was 2018, like 2017. The UAE was already starting to think about it. And I know because I have Rabbi Eli Abadi, who's on my advisory committee. Love him, Mizrahi. We love Mizrahi Jews. And he was approached before that time, So obviously they were thinking of something going on. But anyway, so I have to give credit, and I think we all have to give credit to Netanyahu because he spent
100%.
a decade making those inroads into the Arab world. So there would be no Abraham Accords without Netanyahu and his diplomatic corps doing that heavy lifting that then Trump and Kushner just swooped in and just added the final touch, basically. And in fact, under Kushner, kind of ruined it in a way, like for Israel. So the only thing is that I fear is Saudi Arabia, right? Because they know that everyone's waiting for them, to join the accords. And look what they did when Iran attacked Israel with the missiles, right? So everyone, even like these naive Jews, were saying, "Oh, but look what Saudi Arabia is doing! It's shooting down missiles." They were shooting down missiles because they didn't want Iranian missiles landing in their territory. Like,
Self-preservation.
Are we
The enemy
forgetting?
of my enemy is my friend. There's along those lines, not exactly the enemy of my
Right.
enemy, but you know what I'm saying. It's like, yeah, we don't want to get hit with the missiles.
But like, are people forgetting geography? Like, Iran is here. Like, to get to Israel, the missiles are going over Jordan and Saudi Arabia. That's why they were shooting down the missiles. So then the next day, Saudi
It's their
Arabia,
territory.
yeah. So the next day, Saudi Arabia gets on Twitter and official statements abound. We helped Israel. We're the good guys, like blah, blah, blah. Okay. So then what happened? They're at the UN Security Council making official statements over recognizing Palestine. So we just want to be careful they're not using the Abraham Accords to weaponize that against Israel to then push a two-state solution when there already is a two-state solution, has been since 1922 when Churchill, as foreign secretary, stole 78% of our homeland, right?
I
And
mean, due to Jordan, right?
Jordan gave it to the royal Saudi family, the Hashemites,
Right.
deported the Jews, who were living there. So I'm just, and again, like there's Article 80, we can get into that a little bit later, the legality, how technically nothing can be actually developed or installed or created on Jewish land at this point. But Saudi Arabia was the first country post the Iran attack who came out with that official statement, right? Like recognizing quote unquote Palestine. So I just think like they're trying to show Israel who's boss through the Accords.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Showing force, showing,
Yeah.
sorry, but balls, like that's
Yeah.
very much
Yeah.
that's what it is. Like that's what it is. Showing force, chutzpah, whatever. Like they got chutzpah too, up the wazoo. They do. They may
Right.
not like to hear it, but they do, and that's what they like to show.
So
And
that's
yeah,
mhm.
good. Mhm.
Sorry. So like for me, that's kind of what I fear, right? So like post the war, because the war is not going to drag on forever and ever, maybe like another 6 months, who knows? What if the UAE comes in, right? The UAE is seen as the most moderate Arab nation that there is. What if the UAE and Morocco, also seen as pretty favorable to Israel, jumps on board with Saudi Arabia and says, well, we have this pact and we're recognizing Palestine and putting that diplomatic pressure on Israel. Can Israel withstand it? That's my question to you.
Yeah. Man, what are they gonna? What would happen if that happens? I don't know. That's tough. That's a tough one. That's a tough see what the hell we're gonna do. Can I go back and blame Netanyahu? He should have kicked their ass. We had to get out. First of all, let me say something good about Bibi before I
Yeah.
completely
Before we like get
before we
into
completely just
right.
eviscerate him. He's the Abraham Accords. He should absolutely take most of the credit for that. He cultivated those relationships for years with the Arab world, meeting on battle cruisers and in the middle of the ocean and stuff, so you couldn't officially be on their territory. You know what I mean? Like meeting with the ocean, literally in the middle of the ocean. He's a great spokesman for the Jewish people. He's a great talker. He's a great as a diplomat. He would be great as a
Mhm.
diplomat. Amazing.
Right.
Now, as as a prime minister, he's totally dropped the ball. Like we had a get out of jail free card October 7th. We could have gone in there, kicked their fucking ass like in 1967. We should have kicked their ass in a week. Boom, done. Kill them all. That's it. Before the UN, before anybody can do anything, just jump in there and just completely destroy them. And by the time people try to react, too late, you're all dead. And
Mm-hmm.
that's it. And then no, you can't recognize the Palestinian state. Who's going to government? We killed you all. You're dead. That's it. Too late. Move on. And the world would totally move on. And they would.
Right. I mean, Israel, and that's the thing. So Israel, under at least like these leaders that are weak, they're so afraid of this international community, and they don't understand. And I know you understand. The world collectively hates Israel no matter what, right? Like whether we carpet bomb Gaza, whether we invite them all into our homes, let them kill and rape our families, it's the same outcome. So you're right. Israel should have carpet bombed Gazans, or at least have put a siege on it, starved them out. They're all Arab occupiers anyway. And yeah, like Israel would be internationally isolated, a pariah for 5 years top. But you know what?
What?
The Arab countries that are not jihadist, 3 to 5 years, they'd be like, we kind of need you guys. We should start working together. Or like, oh, thank you for not importing more jihadists into our region. So we should like work together. And that's what they don't understand at all. And also just okay, so we need to get in this. Okay, so before we talk about
They'd respect us more. Can I say something? They would respect us more too. It'd have the opposite effect. by kicking their ass and killing them all, they would actually respect us more, and they'd be willing to come to the table with us more because you showed force. It wasn't like we didn't capitulate. We're not gonna be little bitches. Like you rape our women, you desecrate dead bodies. We're gonna go fucking kill all of you, and that's it. That's it. Like you're dead. Like and
So
fuck around and
before
find out.
so before we talk about what led to October 7th, I think we also need to talk about what we're talking about, like again to the general audience.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not going to put words in your mouth. I'm going to say my piece now. We're not talking about Hamas. We're not talking about the military wing of Hamas. I believe we're both talking about the Arab occupier population, the 2.2 million, 2.1 in Gaza, right? And so the reason why we say this, there's no innocent civilians in Gaza whatsoever, because first of all, over 1,000 Gazans murdered Jews on October 7th in the worst barbaric ways humanly imaginable. I mean, like just being murdered is bad enough, but the way it was done was just mind-boggling. It was worse than the Holocaust in terms of barbarity.
Way worse the things that they did. The Germans
Right.
never did that. The Germans did it like
Never.
very systematically, very industrial engineering
Right.
type shit. They never do this. This was they took their time. This is brutal. They wanted to
Mhm.
really drive this like completely brutal. Never anything done like that. Germans never did.
And not to say that the Nazis' way of killing was good. We're just saying that
Of
the
course, of
barbarity, the
course.
severity, this was like ISIS shit on crack. That's the only way to describe it. And so then you had all of the Arab occupier rats who had work permits. So if you know, I mean, again, like you can estimate the number. I was reading the 40, well, actually, no, I was at the border. I was at the border crossing in 2022. And I remember the director of the border crossing was lamenting that there were only 40,000 work permits and he wanted more. I was like, I mean, I didn't say anything because I was like one of like 50 people, at that presentation. I was thinking, why do they want more terrorists into their country? And he was like, oh, but they're all Shabak approved. And we need more because when the Gazans come in, if they have economic security, it's brings more peace. Like they just like were so naive. And I was just like shocked. I'm like, how can you be so naive? And so it was such a show. I don't know if I discussed this with you, off record, but there was, like first of all, okay, first let's talk about this. The border. Have you been to the crossing or what
I
was?
haven't never been down there.
I thought it
I
was
have
going to
kids. I
be
have kids. I don't want to go anywhere that's like you know what I
right,
mean. Like
right.
I I,
I
I got I got to take care of them, man. Like
right, right. I thought it was going to be a shithole. So I remember wearing like my worst sneakers, like going like I thought it was to be like going into some like little space and with dirt. I went in there. It looked like a nice airport terminal. It was like air
I've heard
conditioning.
that. It's like go to the airport
Yeah.
security.
First of all, it's huge, right? It's like, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know, like I'm in a New York City apartment. It was like six lengths of my apartment, and I'm in a 1,000 square foot apartment. So it was like spacious. It was air conditioned, lovely grounds that were kept beautiful. I'm just like, what is going on here? This is not what you hear in the news, number one. And then, I saw that the Gazans were going through security. It literally looks like airport security. You just like put your little bag on the conveyor belt. Like no one is being, fit, like nothing. So anyway, he pulled out a Gazan to show, and he's like, "Oh, what do you think about Hamas?" So the guy said something in Arabic. Our director obviously speaks Arabic, and he says he just said "fuck Hamas." Yay! Like all like the American Jews, like, "Oh my gosh, he said fuck Hamas!" Right? And again, I guarantee you, the second he got onto Gazan soil, which obviously is still Jewish soil because
Yeah.
Gaza's has been part of has
Jewish
been
homeland, but
Jewish land since 145 BC, technically
exactly,
legally still
exactly.
part of Gaza.
You know more about it than me, but I do know. I
Yeah,
know what you're talking about.
yeah,
Like, there's
no,
no such thing.
145.
They're not a
Actually,
real nation. They don't have a real land.
no,
But,
no, no, no. And like literally, like to this day, like again, we'll get into this later. Article 80 is an international treaty that the disengagement did not change. Anyway, so I said to the person next to me, I said, I guarantee you, the minute he crosses into Gaza, he's gonna say fuck Israel. And the person
I
next to
love
me,
Hamas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
was so naive. And he's like, no, but he said, fuck Israel. That took such a. I'm like, oh my Jesus. Like, these are the naive Jews that we're talking about here. So, anyway, so a thousand Gazans who were civilians murdered Jews in the worst depraved ways. 40,000, and a majority of those who had work permits were helping Hamas for years to plan this
30
genocide.
years.
Yeah.
Some 30 years they knew exactly. Sorry to
Mhm.
interrupt, just a minute. They
Yeah.
know the one guy, I think it was Gafar Azza. There's one worker there. They learned, oh, he slept in their homes. He knew their kids. He knew the cats, dogs, when the men go to synagogue, who's religious, who's not, when they ate, when they did this. He knew every freaking detail that's how they could plan everything.
Right.
30 freaking years they waited. This is the people that we're dealing with here.
Exactly. And so like people are like, and then you have, okay, I want to just like spin
They don't
out.
know about Al Taqiyya, which we'll get into later. They don't know about that.
Right, right. And then you have idiots like Noah Tishby, who's all over. We'll get into grifters of October 7th later. And she's at the Israel rally in DC that I was at, the Unity rally. But I just feel badly for the innocent palace, for the innocent civilian. And I'm like, lady, like Israel's the only country in the world that has 12-year-olds sitting in prisons because of what the brainwashing has been doing in Gaza and in Judea and Samaria. And so people like don't know, like the most popular game before the war, probably obviously now even more so for children in Gaza was called Stab a Jew. So these kids, and I call them like I don't even care like if this gets me an FCC violation. These rats are growing up to become murderous terrorist rats, right? Like all children grow up, right? And how
Yeah.
you raise them is how they're going to
They're
grow up.
plays. They're plays, haven't you?
Exactly. So like to think of like what are we going to do with them, right? So we'll get into Gallant a little bit later because you shared with me more information, but at least in the beginning, he had great ideas. I remember on October 8th, very decisively, I heard him on my news in America, siege Gaza, no food, no water, no electricity until every last hostage is out. So before we get into all that, like why that wasn't allowed to continue to happen, to continue to occur, in your opinion, how did October 7th, how was it even allowed to happen, given Israel's intelligence and security and undercover strength and apparently soft contacts within Gaza that they had relied upon, right? Like for other times. How was it allowed to happen?
Okay, wow. Well, I think you got to take it back first to the protests, which weakened this country for 6 months or whatever it was when the country was burning to the ground. And Bibi didn't do anything. Like, remember, he's supposed to pass judicial reform because we have a libtard Supreme Court and they have way too much damn power. And whatever they say is law, and there's no check on their power. There is no like, you know what I mean? It's not like the states where you have checks and balances and stuff. Like, what they write, the Israeli Supreme Court, that's it. That's law, and you can't. There's no check on their power. He couldn't even pass judicial reform, and these protests weakened this country for 6 months. Also, we have idiots at the top of the IDF apparatus. Like they were warned. Hey, they're like. Did you hear about the a lot of the women who you see now who were kidnapped with the they were the people who fucking warned them for like months. Some of these girls, or women soldiers. Listen, there's some shit going on at the border. Pardon my French. And at one point, I don't know all the details. I was a buddy of mine was telling me about this. And he does like Shuri by the Sea, like Torah lectures. But he was talking about this, how like they were warned and they ignored it to the point where they were told the women, if you keep telling us this, we're gonna like I guess like this like the Israeli could like a court martial,
Mm-hmm.
like punish them for like trying to like inform them that they're gonna do this. So we're just stupid and we just ignored it. Like the signs were there. Like there's something going on. I don't know all the details. I'm an expert on it, but apparently there were warning signs. It's not like this should not have been like that big of a surprise.
So to add to what you just said, or to reaffirm what you said, I have a dear friend who's Israeli, and she said that her friends were warning, like actual friends, she has friends in the military, were warning their commanders, like you just said, and like for 2 years, and the commanders were saying, if you keep annoying me about it, we're going to court martial you. That's exactly what he said, right? So my question is this from a, again, like if you don't know exactly, that's fine. I'm just thinking, off the top of my head here, did Israel ever have drones monitoring Gaza before the war or no?
I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know that specific. I'm not sure. I don't know that details. I just know that we dropped the ball, and it could have been prevented. Obviously, I mean, they had warning signs, and it kind of reminds me of like when you were talking about we're getting off topic with Golda Meir when she completely ignored the security signs, right, in the 1973,
I mean,
and
she
just
she like really ignored them because at least the people that were with her were like showing her like these are going to be the
oh,
attack sites. They're going to attack on like this and this, around this date. And she was like, no, like this is too much to bear. This could never happen. Yeah. So that was even worse, like in a way. I think
of
obviously,
course, yeah, no, that's fair. But
yeah,
I just
yeah.
couldn't think of another example to compare it to,
Right,
so I
right,
just kind of threw it
right.
out there off the top of my head.
So I have to keep going back to my trip to Egypt. It was short, it was just a couple of days, but again, all we Israel had to do was copy and paste the policies that Sisi had against
Can we
Egypt.
take his border wall? Like he's got like seven of them, and they're freaking huge with like spark like
Can
barbed
we
wire.
just can we just show the audience? Okay, so Israel had a flimsy fence, and so okay, so there was like a reason that Israel gives why they had a fence, easy access to Gaza in case we need to go in. There's security camp. Okay, Gaza has a steel wall and then has retaining walls. So, like for like, I remember being at the Gazan border, well, the border with Gaza, seeing that fence. I was like, what the hell is this fence going to do? This was in 2022. And then I saw the border with Gaza from the Egyptian side. So you have a big ass steel wall, then there's no man's land, then another wall, no man's land, another wall. No, we're talking like 4 to 5 walls. So if any Gazan even tried to escape, I don't know how they would, but if they tried, they're snipers on top of their watchtowers just ready. And by the way, the Egyptian military just last week was shooting at Gazans trying to escape because now the Egyptian military obviously like to escape from Rafah. So Rafah. So obviously the Egyptian military is very much close to the action now than before. So not only okay, so remember the border. So first of all, Rafah, like for those who are not aware, I just found this out last week. Rafah is a divided city. Half of it is in Gaza, half of it's in Egypt. Same population. News to me. They don't talk about that in the news. So that's why they have the border crossing there. So Egypt before the war kept the border crossing closed year round except on Ramadan. So if Egypt is keeping the border closed year round except for a month out of the year, why is Israel keeping it open and allowing Mercedes Benz and God knows what else, right? Because a lot of people in Gaza were rich, like we see the mansions. This lie of a concentration camp is just pitiful when everything we see in the videos now points to these beautiful opulent apartments and like many of the residents, the occupiers in Gaza lived better than everyone I know in Israel from what I've seen.
We don't have houses here. We got apartments. We don't have freaking houses.
Right. Very few people like first of all, like for the again, like for the audience, like very few people, like at least very few areas, I'll put it that way. Very few areas in Israel have actual mansions and homes of
In
that
the
size.
countryside, maybe the villages, the Arabs all own them.
Right.
Jews don't have houses here unless they're like uber rich. Like in some parts of like Haifa is the closest big city to me. Like or maybe Caesarea is where all the richest
Okay,
people in
sorry.
Israel live.
Right, right. That's what I
Caesarea,
said.
okay.
Right.
That's where the mansions are, like where where Bibi lives and all the high, all like the big wigs and stuff. They all live there. People also we don't have. Are you
They're,
kidding me?
they're apartments. And so like if you compare it, let's say Tel Aviv,
Apartment Tel Aviv's like I forgot how much it cost. I don't know. I've got how many millions it is now.
and
Like
it
they're paying double what I am for rent. Like if you
right.
want to rent a place in Tel Aviv,
And
like
most apartments in Tel Aviv, like I've been to many, are shitty, like in
they're
terms of
tiny as hell. They
right.
make your New York apartments like a shitty apartment looks big. They're like
Exactly.
half the studio and shit. It's nothing.
And only that, I mean, I prefer Jerusalem over Tel Aviv, but there are parts of Tel Aviv I absolutely love. But I'll say this: compare Gaza before the war to Tel Aviv. there are parts of Tel Aviv that looked far shittier than anything I've seen in the videos coming out of Gaza. And
In
like,
South Tel Aviv?
thank God for the terrorist
Yeah.
supporters that I follow who show all these videos to elicit, compassion for what's going on in Gaza. Like you see the bombed out parts. And then I don't know if you've seen the videos. I don't know how popular they are in Israel, like the before October, before the war and after the war. And like you see these gorgeous apartments and parks and beachfront property and hotels and restaurants. And then obviously you see the bombed out parts. And like, do they know that they're leaking all this evidence that they never lived in any concentration
Open air
camp?
prison. Like,
Open
which
air
one is it?
prison.
Was it nice and we destroyed it, or was it an open air prison? You can't have
Which
both,
one is it?
idiots.
Right,
You just
right.
showed that it wasn't, you morons. Oh,
And
you were
so it's
so
like this
stupid.
one guy had like Yeezys and he had like 8 different iPhone. I'm like, and it wasn't the only one. Like I have watched probably over 60 of those kinds of videos since October 7th. So it's not like one outlier, right? It's not
Right.
just the Hamas operatives. So anyway, so the border should have been closed. There was no reason to have that border open. So
Common
yes,
sense. It should have
yeah.
always been closed.
Mhm.
Always.
And
Sorry, go ahead.
Egypt did not allow one Gazan, who, by the way, most Gazans are Egyptians, for those who are not aware. The
Right.
most popular last name in Gaza is Al Masri, the Egyptian.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
Yeah,
that. That makes
yeah,
sense,
yeah,
though.
exactly. So yeah, like they're mostly Egyptians, right? Because in 1948, is Egypt resettled 250,000 of its nationals, radicalized them, and only some former Israeli Arabs fled into Gaza. And the only reason that they fled into Gaza because they wanted to help the Arab armies kill Jews faster. Literally the only reason they got into Gaza. And then there were some, pardon me, some Saudis, not for any nefarious reason, Saudi Arabia, very close geographically to Israel and Gaza. They're like, oh, well, we have this like little property here that's under Arab rule now. So let's slide in. And then the Africans you see there came as slaves of the Saudis and the Egyptians in the 1950s and 60s. So Egypt right now under Sisi, like and I know like Egypt doesn't have close relations with Egypt. I know there's a very, 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 very tenuous and cold peace, but I still have so much respect for Sisi because he did a lot against Gaza that again, like Israel should have copy paste. If Egypt is doing something against Gaza, let's do that. It's
And
not
America should copy his border, by the way.
right. Exactly. Right. Although I'm more worried about the border with Gaza.
No,
So
no,
and,
of course. But I'm
right,
just saying in
right.
general, it wouldn't be a bad idea. Just saying.
So all they had to do, so literally 3 things: build more walls, keep more snipers, which is all in one, uh, don't issue work permits, and keep your border crossing closed. Like there's just no reason. Like I just don't understand this. So I just okay, so okay, so we're gonna rail even more. I recently found out that in 1997, Netanyahu gave away 97% of Hebron to the Arab
And
occupiers.
I knew it was a lot. I didn't know it was that high
It was
to you.
97%, and it was called the Yes Accords. So I remember being in Hebron. Okay, first of all, can I ask you a question? Because you do live in Israel, and hopefully you could provide some insight into this. So I go into Hebron, I see and again, like I'm a proud Jew. And when I went to Hebron, this was 2018, I'm already a Zionist, loving the military. I have never been afraid of my own people with guns. Like, I had never seen such big guns in my life. I have never seen such an intimidating military presence and force. I was like, oh my gosh, like all of that is protecting 3% of this town. That's like incredible. So why in the hell was that sort of military presence with their intimidating guns to the point where a Zionist feels scared, right? Like being next to these people. Why was that type of force not there at the border of Gaza?
Again, your leaders are idiots. Like there's no logical reason not to. Like you and I could figure out better security for them, and we're not even leaders of the country. We could figure it out and hash it out in like an hour podcast. Like why don't we just do this, and this, and we'd save a lot of people's lives, and then this shit would be done, and it would be finished. I don't know why. I think, well, I knew part of it why. A part of it is because we've become a vassal state of America, and Bibi does whatever America tells him to do. And we got idiots with a galoot, like we don't believe in an independent country. Like, as one of my buddies was saying, we shouldn't even celebrate Independence Day. Like, America, can we go into Rafah? Can we kill the bad guys now? Are we allowed to do that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like we're
But
it's asinine.
When America's not even an actual ally, so I remember being at this organization's gala, Emmett, like run by this Orthodox woman who on her website says occupied territories. And this is a pro-Israel organization, occupied effing territories, referring to Judea and Samaria. And I questioned her on that. She's like, well, I'm using the legal term. I'm like, first of all, that's not legal terminology. That is anti-Semitic terminology that you as an Orthodox Jew, I'm going to call her out, Sarah Stern, should not be using. Anyway, so when I was part of that organization very briefly, I went to a gala in DC and they had Lindsey Graham speak. And so this, yeah, when was this? Oh, sorry, 2017. And he was like, we don't have an official treaty with Israel, and we should, because let's say Israel gets attacked by Hamas, we should have boots on the ground to help them. And so again, the whole hotel room erupts and like cheering, like, yay, treaty with Israel. Okay, a week later, an Israeli general rebuffs the whole idea. And he's like, first of all, we don't have a treaty with America. We don't want a treaty with America. He said America, and this is so true, as we've seen, wildly swings from administration to administration, right? Like we go from Bush to Obama to Trump to Jihad Joe. Hopefully Trump will come back. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like we can't, America's not reliable. And then he also said we cannot have a treaty with America because he said, first of all, we don't want American boots on the ground ever. He said that's going to really spearhead anti-Semitism if we have American men dying, on our land. He said, we want to protect our land. Like, we're proud of that. And he said, also, we do business with countries that America would not approve of, right? He's like, we're selling arms to Azerbaijan, we're selling arms to other countries, and we don't want to wait for America's decisions. So my question to you is, there's no treaty. So why is Netanyahu, especially during this insane war, after the worst atrocity to the Jewish people since the Shoah, why is he acting as if we have some kind of subordinate treaty with America? Like to me, that makes no sense.
I think part of it is because, I mean, I learned this actually recently. I don't know all the details, but I think I might have mentioned it to you. I think we don't make as many weapons as we used to. We've under BB, I think we've outsourced more of the weapons manufacturer. Again, don't quote me on it. I'm iffy on the details, but it would make sense. I mean, but it's stupid though, because we have the best high tech here. Raphael makes great techs. Like, we don't need to do that. But I think BB, I think it's a mentality thing, like this Galut mentality where like don't really believe you're independent and have the right to to do things as your own nation, which is insane because he was born here and stuff. But I don't know. I don't understand why we would do that and just not just go kick ass and don't worry about what people say. Who cares? People are going to condemn you no matter what you do because you're Jews. Fuck it, go kick some ass. Who cares? I mean, they accuse you of genocide when you're giving them aid to the fucking people that murdered you, and you're still getting accused of genocide. Go kick some ass. Who cares?
It makes no sense. I do want to just have an aside that finally, something clicked in Israeli leaders because they saw that America's not giving them weapons. That, by the way, Israel already purchased and is owed for a couple of, for years now. So now Israel ramped up obviously production of bullets and bombs, and now we saw that how successful. What's it called? Help me here. David Sling. That was destroying all the missiles,
Right,
and
right, yeah.
that's going to be replacing the Iron Dome because
Okay.
now they don't need the American parts to make the Iron Dome operational. Now they have David Sling, which is like the next generation, and they saw how successful that was. So finally, we're on the right path. But that just like made no sense. So something else I want to share with the audience.
Can I mention one thing too, real
Yeah.
quick, and a reason why Israel should never ever rely on Americans? Somebody brought this up the other day. Back in '73, Henry Kissinger purposely delayed arms transfer to Israel. He said, "Let Israel get a little bloody first, in
See,
order to facilitate negotiations, like in order to like make it so they could, hey, kicked their ass, and now they have to depend on us to negotiate a little more.
Could you explain 73? Because I'll be really honest.
I'm not. I just heard about this. I just learned
Okay.
about this recently, so I'm not an expert on it. But I heard
Yeah,
about it.
I'm
I
not
was
an
like,
expert. Like I know that Golda Meir fucked up, but in terms of intelligence, but I don't know much about the American side. Like I know that Nixon was anti-Semitic, but he actually was pro-Israel, kind of
yeah.
weird dichotomy. But Kissinger, being a self-hating Jew, he was anti-Israel. So could you explain, like, if you know, like why Kissinger was anti-Israel, like why he
Yeah,
wants to fight Israel?
I don't know why he's such an anti-Semitic Jew, but I do know like he was against when Israel, like I remember he was in college and the when or whatever it was, how old he was when Israel became a nation. I guess maybe he's in grad school, whatever how old he was. I mean, he's like 100 now, so it was a long time ago anyway. But and he like rest of his Jewish classmates were like stunned because he was like, no, I'm against it because it'll hurt our relationship with the Arab world. Like he was always like a self-hating Jew. That's all I know about Kissinger in that regard related to Israel. And I just learned that the other day that he had said, like, hey, let Israel get a little bloody first. Now, I don't know if that's a direct quote. I heard that from a buddy of mine, but he knows his shit. So I'm going to go with what he said,
So
which
he
makes
wants
sense. It would totally make sense for Kissinger to
So
do
he
that.
right, like, and by the way, like overall, he was a horrible Secretary of State. Like, I don't know why people were seeking his advice after
He's like a
post was
consultant for
gone.
like
Right.
half a century. It's
I'm
like,
like,
brother,
he grifted. He definitely grifted on
oh my
everything.
God, like such a grifter. Wow.
So, okay, and then another thing that we need to talk about is that, by the way, and Bibi admitted this, that he gifted Hamas cement because he didn't want to give Hamas financial aid, which, by the way, he was under no obligation to do. So
Why would you give them aid anyway? Oh my God, sorry.
he decided instead to give them raw materials that, by the way, Saudi Arabia and Qatar built up all of Gaza. That's why it looks so or looked before the war gorgeous. Like if you look at the buildings that are being bombed, like I looked at them, I'm like, that is some beautiful bones over there. You know, like the bones of the buildings, like they look like really nice. And the reason, by the way, the reason that all the bombing did not completely destroy all the buildings because they were built really well and they looked gorgeous. I'm like, I wanted to live in like one of these buildings if I had a chance. Anyway, so why in the hell did Bibi give cement that Hamas then used to build the terror tunnels? What?
I never. This is the first time I heard of it. Like
Yeah.
again, we just more and more shit comes out, and I'm like, just it's even another indictment on BB,
Bibi like
another one.
literally like I'm not getting this out of my booty. Like Bibi's on video like admitting to this like years ago. And he's like, "Oh yeah, like now like it's a mistake." I'm like,
Where's this
just for
mistake?
that, like I'll be on record. Along with Gantz and many other leaders, Netanyahu needs to be in prison for sure. Crimes against Israel.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that. I mean, if Huda American go to prison for whatever for money laundering and stuff or corruption, BB's. Let's put it this way: if his son was one of the hostages, I bet you he would have ordered the siege on Gaza. Was that fair to say? I mean, do you think he would have done it? Do you think, or would he give them aid if his son
I actually don't know because like this is what boggles my mind. So when I was actually very pro Netanyahu for many years. Well, first of all,
I was too.
I didn't know about the yes accords. I didn't know about the cement. Obviously, I didn't know about the weapons powered
I
down
did the
production.
cement was just
And
metal.
you're right. I read about that in many places.
Mhm.
His brother was killed by terrorists, right? Like Yoni
No,
Netanyahu.
Operation Tab.
Right. How could you like so you would think that after losing, well, he didn't lose his okay, can we just also interject here? You don't say this, thank God. Why do so many Jews say we lost Jews? Are Jews sheep? Like, did we just like lose Jews? Jews were murdered. Like, we did not lose Jews.
Didn't lose them. They're not lost and found. They didn't like. It's not like we dropped. We didn't lose the mall. We didn't go to the mall on a trip. We can't find them anymore. No, they're fucking murdered. They were killed.
And
Like
also we did not lose the hostages. We know where the hostages are. Like they're in captivity. Well, I mean, we don't know the exact pinpoint,
they're
but
being
meaning
tortured. They're being murdered,
they're
and
in
we should be fucking
right. They're
kicking
in
their ass.
captivity. Right. They're in captivity. They did not get lost. And like one of the things I know it's like very etymological, but I hate also how Jews describe the well, I call them the Jewish martyrs of the Holocaust, right? Oh, we lost 6 million. Oh, first of all, it's more than 6 million. We can get into that a little bit later. It's actually closer to 7 million because the
Yeah,
6 million
because
is only
well,
from camps.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, if I can say, just in Leo and Lviv and Kiev, they don't even have in Ukraine. They don't even know how many bodies are buried there because people
My
forget about
my my great grand
The
my
Einsatz grouping.
yeah
Before the
my
Holocaust, the Einsatz grouping killed like 1.5 or 2 million Jews in the Pale settlement areas and stuff. Like, right? Like,
my great grandparents on my maternal side, along with all of their children except for two, one escaped to Israel, to Palestine, and 36 was detained by the British occupiers. Ended up in Atlit. I found his name when I went to Atlit to look at the records. And my grandfather, who was drafted into the Red Army and then obviously served in the Russian military. Everyone else in that family was murdered, not by the Nazis, but by locals in Lvov. Uh, Now it's Ukraine, but it was Poland, same shitty population, right? So when Ukraine and
worse
Russia,
than the Germans, way worse than the Germans ever were.
exactly. So
Still are.
they never ended up in the camps. They were all shot in a ravine. And when I go to Yad Vashem and I look at, the list, they're not there. So there is no way it was 6 million Jews. It must have been over 7 million. And so like it is so infuriating when Jews are like, we lost 6 million. I'm like, did we lose them in some kind of pasture? Like, what are you talking about? Like, they were murdered. So I think we as Jews, I say this publicly, need to use the correct adjectives to describe like what happened to our people.
Of
So I
course.
don't understand how his brother was murdered by these evil monsters, and he is so soft on terrorism, on this population that murdered so many of his people. Like I just don't understand. So no, to answer your question, I don't know if Yair, who's hiding in Miami, right? Like if I'm not mistaken, he's
Yeah.
not serving in the military, even though he's of age. I don't know. I think if his son was kidnapped, I don't think he would change anything.
Really? I don't know.
I don't
Maybe
know.
he's. I, I mean, I know it was Idi Amin, right? It was Idi Amin, his Operation Entebbe. So maybe
Yeah.
he's compartmentalizing to a certain extent. Like, oh, maybe they're different from the Nazi Arab occupiers, Judea and Samaria. But I don't know. Like, it's still the same ideology, the same people that want to murder you. I mean, it's the same. It's still the same. We hate you because you're Israel. We hate you because you're Jews. We want to fucking kill you. So I don't understand why he would differentiate at all. And you're right. I have no idea how he could think that way. Like he should be a badass on this stuff. Plus, he's supposed to be Likud, which we could get into that. Likud is almost the same as labor now. There's no difference really. If
Yeah,
you
but
really want
we're
real
yeah,
change,
we're
sorry, we're getting. I'm
actually
sorry.
it's okay. We're actually gonna get into that now. So I posted, I don't know if you saw my post from, well, my morning, your late afternoon, basically what we just talked about, right? Like I don't understand how American conservative Jews still support Netanyahu. This is like all the ways he basically, screwed up and endangered Israel. And I had so many people message me like, I didn't know this. Oh my gosh. Yeah, but I also had people message me, I agree. I'm like, so how come you're silent? Or like, how come you're not saying anything? So who still supports Netanyahu in Israel, and why? Does anyone support him in Israel? Because I know the left hate,
Um, No
obviously.
one I talk to really supports him right now. I don't know anybody that supports him. Like, I mean, he's got to be done after this. There's no fucking way he can still be in power. There's no way. Like, we better get a real right wing government, not a fake ass Likud, like a Lino, Likud in name only. Like, I should trademark that. But you know what I mean? Like the rhinos in America. Like he's
Right.
Likud in name. I don't know who still supports
He
him.
reminds me, he reminds me of Nikki effing Haley, who I cannot stand. He's the Nikki
Like,
Haley of Israel.
yeah,
And by the way, Nikki was pushing for a two-state solution until October 7th. So here you
what?
go.
That I didn't know that. And some Jews, they tell me like she's like good for Israel. I'm like,
I mean, she changed. Okay, like to be fair, she changed her tune after October 7th because she understands. But why was she pushing for an anti-Semitic two-state solution if she's this? What was she? The UN ambassador, the U.S. ambassador to the UN. She should have done a little bit of research and be like, "Wait, where did Jordan come from? Maybe that's the second,
right,
right?
right.
Like a
It doesn't take
little
me
bit
long
of."
to figure it out. Yeah, like
Right,
if
like, I'm
you
not
if
saying she
you
should know. I'm not saying she should know the history of like all 192 countries, but how about like the top 10 that we deal with on a daily basis? Israel being one of them.
right. If
She
I
was
can figure it out by digging, and I wasn't taught this shit, because to be
right.
fair though, she's not Jewish, and most Jewish organizations are fucking horrendous. They don't even know shit. Even I even know some people who like are Israel advocates. They're from here and they still don't fucking know the truth. Like they'll say stupid shit like, "Well, the Palestinians, they're indigenous to this area." So, like, no, they're not. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, you're from here. How the fuck do you not know that shit? Like, which I'll get into that later. But you know what I mean? Like,
No,
there's
we're gonna save that for the grifters, and we're gonna name names. I have so many names, and I want you to name names also if you can legally. But it's like disgusting. But like, yeah. So, is there any like faction like what and what is yeah? Can you get into like what is Likud actually?
I
Like,
don't know what Likud is anymore. I don't
what
think it
is
used
it
to be.
supposed to? Sorry, Brandon. So, what is it supposed to be, and what is it in actuality now?
They're supposed to not be labor, like not want to give the country away to like to the people who want to murder us and stuff, and not be. They're supposed to be not be soft on them. You're supposed to be like more militant. Let's kick their ass. Let's be like let's be people like stand up for Jews are being murdered and go kill them, like kill the bad guys. At the very minimum, it should be go kill the people who raped and murdered our people. That should be what the fuck they are at a minimum, but they're not. Like there's no difference, I don't think, between labor. The only difference would be like Yair Lapid was trying to negotiate that settlement with like Hezbollah for the gas, so he's even worse. You know what I mean? Like he's even worse. Which, by the way, little known fact: did you know he's not even a high school graduate? Like Yair Lapid, did you know that? Yeah, not even a high school graduate. And I got to bring this up because we'll talk about the media bias, but the left wing media here like will rip on Smotrich because he made like a mistake in English one time. They ripped on him, but he speaks English better than Yair
And
Lapid.
this is
At least he's educated. At
and
least Smotrich has a degree. Yair Lapid's not even a fucking high school graduate. I'm sorry, I went on
all
a
right, so
tangent.
just to clarify, because we do have a listening and visual audience, for those who don't know, who exactly is Smotrek? Just so.
Smotrich, he's it's the official title, but I know I voted for him, and
Mhm.
they're Lapid, and you got Smotrich, so they're like that. That's the party that the I don't want to say far right because that's crap. That's they're just they're the you can explain it better than me. They're the ones who you should vote for, I think, because if you want to continue the status quo of us being murdered, and not do anything about it, keep voting for Labor, Likud. But if you want to actually do something about it and kick their ass and like make Gaza, Judea and Samaria, make it Jewish, vote for vote for Ben Gvir, vote for Smotrich. These are the guys who like Smotrich floated an idea relocating the Arab occupiers, send them to the Congo.
Sure. Although the Congolese would be very against that.
Hey, it's one of the poorest countries on earth. Islam is illegal, and like they can go
Oh, it
mine
is.
was it lithium batteries or whatever. There, they'll love it.
That's
Have
true.
fun.
That's true. Okay, better
It's
yet,
not.
like literally dump them into the mines, the lithium mines, like
Yeah, have fun. At least they're gone. That's cool.
airdrop them.
That's thinking outside the box. I like it. Like that's not a bad idea.
Okay, so can you explain, first of all, to me, although I know a little bit now, a little bit more, but can you explain to the audience, if you can, what are the political parties in Israel? Like who's on the left, who's on the right? Are there very right-wing parties? How does that all work?
See, I still get even because I'm not like fluent in Hebrew. I understand like half of it. I'm pretty good now. Like, but I still like it's still very confusing because it's a parliamentary democracy, so
Mhm.
you have to form coalition governments. It's so like I know you have like people like Ben Gvir, Smotrich who are on the right. Faglin's another one. I think he's more like he used to be like a libertarian version, but he's more like hardcore. Like he wants to kick the fuck. He's not like a libtard. Then Likud is supposed to be right wing or center right. I mean, I don't know if they are. Like those of us who really understand Israeli politics, even not that much, they know. Like in Israel, we know Bibi's not really liberal. He's not really conservative. He's a liberal. He's not. He just talks a good game. He says all the right shit. And can we say why conservative Jews like Bibi? Can we go ahead and say that right now? Okay,
Of course, of course. That was
because he
clear.
speaks English fluently. He went to MIT, and this is the most important reason why they love him because he's Ashkenazi. That's the
Mhm.
reason why they like him because he's like, hey, he's one of us and shit. That's the reason why they love Bibi. Like, and I confront people. Like, I've heard people tell me, like, I'll argue with conservative Jews, like, on Trump supporters, they're conservative Jews in America. One person tried to tell me that Bibi's the one person tried to tell me he's like the Churchill of our time. He was saying in a good way. I didn't get into like, well, in a way,
Yeah.
he is kind of a traitor.
Well, actually, he's very much like Churchill because
Very
Churchill
much like he wants to keep
stole
things away.
70% of our homeland.
But one person and said he was like the Ronald Reagan of our time. I'm like, no fucking way, you did not go there. Ronald Reagan stood up to the Soviet Union, arguably the most evil empire that ever existed. Top five,
Mhm.
undebatable. Like we'll say top three, top five. And he
Right.
said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. And it fucking came down like that. Bibi couldn't even stand up to the libtard protesters to pass judicial reform. Like, you should have sent the riot police in, tear gas them, let them go home, look for jobs, be productive members of society. Like, you're destroying the country. We can't have the luxury of having people burn down this country and protest like that. We can't. Like, we need to shut that shit down. Like, I don't. I believe in freedom of expression, freedom of speech, but not to the point where it's chaos and it goes against law and order. We can't afford that because we'll all die. We'll all die. Like, people want to murder us. We can't
And
allow that type of shit to happen and fester. Sorry, go ahead.
no, it's okay. Sorry to interrupt, but I had to interject. If I were the prime minister, and maybe good thing I'm not, here's the thing, and you're so correct. And this is a driving home point. Israel is not America. Israel is not a democracy. Israel cannot afford, like you said, to be democracy because it's a Middle Eastern country. And so Ashkenaz Jews in America, I'm going to now go for the American side, think of Israel as this Western country dropped into the Middle East, right?
Right.
And I hear this all the time, and like I see it online too. Israel's the only democracy in the Middle East. Is like that's what they're proud of. I'm like, you should not be proud of that because they're not talking about how, well, first of all, like no one's talking about how Jews are indigenous, right? You don't have Bibi talking about that. You don't have the Israeli ambassador to the UN, something, or Don. He does these gimmicks, okay, like they're cute to look at on Instagram. Why is he not saying Jews are indigenous to Judea? We literally emerged from the Semitic tribes. We're not from Egypt. Like, leave faith out of Zionism. Again, faith is very central to our culture. I'll give it, I respect the faith. I go to events with Chabad. I have a great relationship with my Chabad rabbi and the Rebbitzin. When it comes to educating others about Israel, leave the origination stories behind. If you want to believe that we all came from slavery in Egypt, even though that's not true, there's the Renepta stele that proves otherwise. There were some Jews that were slaves in Egypt, not all. There's literally documentation which cities were defeated, and it literally says Israel, it says Jews, all the way back in 1207 BC. Okay, so it was certain cities, not all the Jews from those cities were taken as slaves. So when we say all Jews like came to Israel from Egypt, okay, great. So then you guys are not from Israel, right? Or like, oh, like Israel was or was created or like, sorry, Jews are descended from Abraham. Good origination story, and it's fine to have origination stories. All people, all races have them. There was no documentation outside of the Bible for Moses, for Abraham, or for Sarah or Ruth. Okay. And that's so important to know. And again, like this is not to offend anyone. Let's not intersect faith with combating actual Jew hate and anti-Semitism. Because like what anti-Semitism is today is trying to separate our indigeneity from Israel, right? So like if we look at ourselves as a religion, which we're not, this is not to you, this is to the audience. It was actually anti-Semitic Christians in Europe who first mislabeled Jews as a religion. We're not. We're a race. We all come from the G1 haplogroup. We split off from the Arabs thousands of years ago. Like, what was Israel before? It was a piece of land. We lived with the Canaanites. We never defeated the Canaanites. They were our neighbors. The Philistines were neighbors on the other side. They were the Ammonites. And everyone was, except for the Philistines. Philistines are not, they were not Semitic. They were from,
Aegean Sea area, closer to Greece.
yeah, they were from
It's been
Crete.
archaeologically proven, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. So, but everyone else were Semites. So when the Jews, and again, like, so where did the Jews live, right? So we emerged from the Semitic tribes. And again, from a faith-based angle, it's sensitive to say that Jews accepted monotheism, right? Like if you, those who believe from a purely historical point of view, Jews created monotheism. Although, if we really want to be honest with ourselves,
Zoroastrianism?
no, no, no. If we want to be honest with ourselves, there was a pharaoh in Egypt who actually documentedly first invented monotheism. His subjects rebelled. There were Jews in Egypt at the time, right? People borrowed ideas, like the Jews borrowed ideas
Sure.
from us, Islam, Christianity. This Moses, there was a very famous Sumerian story about a baby in a basket being on a river, being rescued, and became a savior to his people. So again, things were barred, right? So from a very historical point of view, we could say Jews created monotheism and then built a society to support that culture with faith as the central angle, of course. But if you look at all of Israel that we have today, Jews only lived in the hill country, right? Judea and Samaria up in the hills. We only lived in those hill countries. That's why Judea and Samaria is called the ancestral heartland, right? Only after centuries, one of the Hasmonean kings, who actually was an Idumean, right? So Jews only, not only, Jews defeated and absorbed three tribes that were non-Jews: the Idumeans, the Moabites, and the oh my gosh, Idumeans, the Moabites, and the Edomites. And so,
Edomites, okay.
right. So no one converted back then. They were absorbed because everyone was Semitic. So there was nothing to convert. It's like, okay, so now you're part of our nation. So hey, like fast on Yom Kippur, right? Like you now are part of us. So you do what we do, right? It's like becoming an American, right? If you want to come to this country, you're now part of our nation. So it's actually an Idumean. I don't know how to pronounce his name properly, and Antipater, right? Like all these ancient names. He's the one who expanded the territory. He's the one who expanded into what is now Jordan. He's the one who expanded into almost near God. He's the one who expanded territory. So the fact that Ashkenaz Jews don't like understand but don't know how to explain that we're indigenous to the nation. They keep saying everything about, we left,
Like
we
magically came back, but Jews were always here. Like
right, we came back. They don't talk about, right, like we had a continuous presence in Israel. We literally are from the soil of Israel, right? It's like I always say, Jews are more indigenous to Israel than the Native Americans are to America.
yeah,
The Native American tribes all came to America. They just came thousands of years before anyone else, but they came here. We like no other people, like, well, I guess the Indians and the Chinese also like emerged from their land. We emerged from this land. So the Ashkenaz see everything from a very Ashkenaz diasporatic lens, a lot. And I've seen the racism, like you and I talked about this, like, against the Mizrahi Jews. Oh, their food is too spicy, the music is too loud. The Ashkenaz Jews are more educated and that's why they should be prime ministers. Everything that they showcase in their programming, I've belonged to many Jewish organizations here in the States. Like, Israel to them starts with Herzl, and that's
right.
this.
And not king, not like back in the day, not like the old history. So
They'll
like
go
they
right.
think it was post Holocaust and it just magically reappeared again. Like it's like no, it's like the history is thousands of years old. Like that's why they keep finding ancient synagogues in Gaza and things like that. It's
Right.
like it's not there by accident. You know,
No, no.
like
And that's exactly why I created my company because I saw like I'm like, wait, so who's filling in this 2,000 year blank? Because all these organizations, they talk about biblical times, biblical times, which is important. Like I'm not gonna knock that. And then they'll skip over to Herzl and then 48, and then they'll lie and say the UN created Israel. Like, on what planet did the UN create Israel? Like, the UN did everything against the sovereignty, against the independence, against the quote unquote creation. Israel was created 4,000 years ago, but you know what I mean? So it's like they just are so misinformed themselves, and it's this like repetition of dangerous uh usefulness, right? It's like they like I had this one guy email me. He's like, oh, could you review my pro-Israel document that I send out to the media? Okay, mind you. So I look at it, 70% of what he has on there is wrong. So I correct the misinformation. He's like, oh, but wait, I got this from Jewish sources. I'm like, well, the Jewish sources are incorrect. So here's the actual truth. And then he's like fighting with me on it. I'm like, okay, so do you want to aid in anti-Semitism, or do you want to counteract anti-Semitism? It's up to you. Like, I have no patience for people who will ask me for help and they'll be like, well, I got this from Jewish sources. I'm like, you can go on academic, and there's this academic site, I don't know if you know, JSTOR, and everything there is anti-Israel, written by left-wing Israeli professors. Surprise, surprise.
and that's who runs the Jewish organizations. Like they're all left, they're all liberals, they're all libtards. That's why they don't. That's why they say shit like Palestinians. Those like you like the green, like you talked about this, like the whole green line settlers, like settlers,
Mhm.
like, they're such bad people, like people want to live in their fucking homeland. Oh, they're so evil. Those settlers who, God forbid, they fight back against people who want to fucking murder them, and they're bad because they want to, like, defend themselves. the ones who actually like have some sense. Like, come on, like
And also, and also, how can you settle your own land?
that's what I'm
Like,
saying. Yeah, you can.
right.
Yeah,
You're
it's Jewish.
settling
You know,
for, you're
I don't
settling
know
for,
all the legal stuff like you do, but I
right.
know that yes, it's Jewish lands. You can't settle majority. It's already yours.
Like
You're
we would be settling, let's say, like, I don't know, Jews decide to, okay, so there are a lot of Jews in America that are moving to Miami, right? Like, let's say like Jews were never there. That would be us settling Miami. Or like if half of Israel got up and like moved to, I don't know, like the Netherlands, because now they're very pro-Israel. That's settling the Netherlands. We're not settling our own freaking ancestral heartland.
the only
That's for
Bill
sure.
Maher said it best. The only place that Jewish people ever colonize is Boca Raton. That's it. Like that's like you know what I mean? Like that's it. Like that's
Right.
it. Dude. Like
And now Miami in droves.
right.
So okay,
Okay.
so I just am so honestly infuriated about the political situation. Do we have any hope? Like, is there any hope for a hardliner to come up?
I'd like to say yes, but I'm not. I'm really not that optimistic
Mm.
because there's just this. I don't know how to explain it. It's just weird. This weird mentality. Like I don't even explain it. Like it's like there's this pathetic need to still be loved. So like I think sometimes I swear there's something in the psyche where we want to have more of our people die just for the proportionality agreement, just to make the world love us. So do you know? I don't know if I'm not making sense here, but there's something like deep in the inner fucked up psyche. Like we want to love we love so much that we want to die for it, like or something like that for the rest of the world. But we should keep their fucking asses. But I don't know if it's gonna happen. I don't know. I wish. I wish. Hopefully after this, if not now, when the hell? When? If not now, when? You know? If not now, when?
So I heard from a good number of survivors, the Nova survivors, who obviously were very leftist before and who had high hopes of peace, with the Arab occupiers for whatever fakakta reason. Now, obviously, they're the opposite, right? They're like, we understand that there's no hope for peace. Gaza needs to be reclaimed. So that's coming from the survivors themselves. So do you think there's maybe going to be like a shift in
I
thinking
hope so. I
amongst
hope
the
so.
rest of the population?
The status quo is not. It's not okay. Like we need to wake up. We got to get out of this mentality of. I mean, just the Mizrahi Jews. They're not projecting Jewish values onto the these people. They know better. Ashkenazim need to wake up, man. Like
So that's my question. Okay, so we can have a whole podcast of
can I put it in perspective? Let's put it this way: if October 7th was those atrocities, if they were committed by the same people who were in Charlottesville, the reaction would be different from the Jewish world. And I'm right.
oh
You know
yeah,
it'd be
yeah.
completely different. Like they're still like creaming themselves. Like look at the difference. Like look at Spielberg, for example.
Mhm.
Watch Schindler's List versus Munich. You know what I mean? Remember Munich had this disgusting.
I refuse to watch Munich because I saw clips of it and how he changed actual history. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck Munich. Sort of Gideon's a better movie, by the way.
Okay.
Sort of Gideon's amazing. Better cast too. Like with Stephen Bauer, like really good actors. Like that one British actor, I forgot his name. He was in like Austin Powers movie. Anyway, really good movie. Much better. It wasn't this, moral equivalency between, the Arab murders and in Israel. There's no more disgusting moral equivalency in sort of Gideon. But there's this. It's this. A lot of Ashkenazi Jews are still like obsessed with thinking like only like the white Nazis are like the biggest enemy, the white supremacists. So you'll see the like white supremacists, dude. There's less than 40,000 white supremacists in the United States. There's a lot more fucking jihadists they're literally calling for our extermination on college campuses in cities around the fucking world, and you're still fucking creaming yourself over white supremacists. Wake the fuck up! In 30
Right.
years, there will be 40 million Muslims in America. You're going to have 50 Rashida Tlaibs and a lot of Mars in Congress. You
Mhm.
think relations are frosty now between America and Israel? And goes back to the point where Israel can't rely on America. We can't be outsourcing manufacture all our own weapons here. We should not be relying on anybody. They should have learned the lesson in '73. But again, our leaders are stupid. Like they don't understand. Like there's a self-preservation they just don't seem to have.
So something I wanted to add to what you said. So you said like, and it's true. I remember being part of the ADL and it was rammed down my throat. I'm actually going to send you an article that I just wrote. What kept me anti-Israel for 20 years. I think it should be shared widely. But one of the things that was rammed down my throat at the ADL was this fear of the neo-Nazi, right? I'm in New York City. I have seen one neo-Nazi enter a Dwayne Reed, which is like a convenience store here. Didn't say anything bad, didn't touch a Jew. I have been surrounded by Hamas supporters and probably like actual Hamas terrorists here in the past 7 months. That's who I fear. I do not fear, because here's the difference. In America, we all know, or like we all push back on the neo Nazis, right?
They
All
don't
of
push
us.
back on the Arab terrorists. They don't, for
Here they
political
like
correct
hug
bullshit
them.
reasons. They're
Here
good.
they politically hug them, right? You have universities that negotiate with them who will throw the Jews under the bus, like in order to bow down to these murderous bastards and the supporters who, who worship at their feet and want to be them. So no, like we do not have okay. So here's another thing about Ashkenaz Jews here. They fear the white supremacists, and at the same time they falsely think that they're white. We're not racially white. Like under what planet? Like we were never racially white. We never will. Again, there's nothing wrong with being white racially at all,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
we're not, right? So these same people who will say like, well, we're white Jews, there's Jews of I'm like, Jews are a race. Yes, we come in different shades, just like Arabs do, by the way. Like they're like, it was so funny. There was a picture of a Hamas terrorist or civilian, same shit, that was
Good.
caught in Gaza by an IDF soldier. And the IDF soldier was like 7 shades darker than the
What are you
Arab
talking about?
occupier. Right. So Arabs come in all
Was it a
different
picture of
colors.
that one girl, the terrorist girl with the blonde hair and the
Yeah.
blue eyes?
She's from Bosnia, number one. It's just half
Oh
Bosnian.
no, I'm talking about the actual one from like an Arab occupier who has like blonde hair and blue eyes. She's famous for like
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
like
So that family is well, whatever. They're all Muslim, right? Like half
whatever.
Bosnian, half Arab. But like not
Anyway,
just that, they're just like, look, they're Arabs with blue eyes. They're Jews with like. By the way, blue eyes has nothing to do with like occupations and intermarriage. There was fun fact. There was one dude 10,000 years ago, because like all humans had brown eyes. All humans had brown eyes for like the 350,000 years of Jews that Homo sapiens were, the modern humans. 10,000 years ago, or like 12,000 years ago, this one dude has a recessive gene and his eyes are blue. So everyone who has blue eyes are from literally like that one gene from like 10,000 years ago. So, like, of course, right? So Arabs and Jews were, again, like one race
the
before.
Grand Mufti had blue eyes.
Yeah, exactly. So of course we're gonna have blue eyes. The Arabs are gonna have blue eyes. Like it's yeah, but like racially. So that's what like a lot of these Jewish organizations don't understand. They're like, oh, Jews are skin. I'm like, no, no, Jews are haplogroups. That's why these Igbo Jews, we can get into that like another podcast that Rudy Rockman is trying to like, rescue, are not Jews. They're using our faith in a very dangerous way. They're pretending that they're Jews. They think Biafra is their Jerusalem, and they're using again, like they're culturally appropriating us in order to terrorize the Nigerian government. And then this like asshole goes in and almost like causes a diplomatic event between Israel and Nigeria.
I never heard
I'll,
about
I'll tell
that.
you this whole thing offline. Anyway, so yeah, like these Jewish organizations, like they don't know who we are. They don't know our history. I don't know where the hell they learned. Well, I guess like other organizations taught them that like Herzl just like created Israel. And suddenly we came back after the Holocaust. But it's yeah, like I think Ashkenaz Jews, and I'm 92% Ashkenaz, 8% Sephardic, 20,000 Italian Jews entered the Ashkenaz region. So all Ashkenaz Jews are actually descended from Sephardic Jews.
Oh, wow.
I'm like ashamed of a lot of Ashkenaz Jews just because of the way, first of all, the racism, that happened. And by the way, can you share with the audience what happened to your wife's grandfather?
Right. Yeah, those are great. Like, so she was telling me this back in the day. So she's telling me like obviously there's her grandfather on on her obviously that side, right? Like so her maiden name before she married me was Pardes, but back in the day it used to be Bardes, which
Oh,
is Mizrahi. But he had to change his name so he could get a job.
that's disgusting.
It is
And
disgusting.
I don't think we fully like, well, a collective we like
It's
that.
better here than it used to be. It's not like that
Right.
anymore.
Yeah,
You know,
I know that, but I think like, I listened to this
the
Yemenite.
racism only goes one way though.
Mhm.
Like you don't really see. They might make jokes a little, but they don't like. There's not like Golda Meir was very racist against Israel. She was like really disgusting shit. If you know what I mean, what she would say and you don't see that them towards national issues. You never I've never seen it. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
said, things are better now than they used to be. But like you'll never hear of Mizrahi Jews like looking down at Ashkenazim like in that way, like in a disgusting way. I've never heard of it. Maybe I've never heard of anything like that.
Is it true that a lot of Mizrahi Jews in Israel vote on the right?
I'd say more so. Even the ones that are like considered left, they're still not like they're not left
Not
you know what I mean?
Ashkenazi left.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, like you're not going to have as many they're not going to be as far left. I would say. I think that's fair to say. Yeah. Well, even Rabbi Kahana, a lot of his followers were more like Sephardi Mizrahi Jews and stuff. He's
I did
talking
not
about.
know that. By the way, a fun fact, I'm not going to name her name in case she backs out, but probably not. I'm actually going to start a Kahanist fan club with a good friend of mine. And because, like when I became a Zionist, I heard the name Kahana and someone accused me of being a Kahanist and then defriended me. Actually, an IDF soldier who got hit with a missile, with a Hamas missile. And I said something, and he's like, "You act like a Hamas," and then he like blocked me. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" Like I didn't mean to like offend. Like I didn't know like who Kahana even was, right? Like I actually was mixing him up with who was that guy who killed 29 Arabs in Judea and Samaria? I forgot his
Baruch
name.
Goldstein.
I literally like mixed those two up. So it was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to kill like 29 Arabs. Like, oh my gosh, no. I think that's it. So then, like, I forgot about Kahana. And with this, after the genocide, I keep, people are posting his videos. I'm like, I am a Kahanist, right? Like, I care about my people. And he wasn't saying to like murder Arabs for no, or first of all, he
No,
wasn't. He was just saying, he's like, look, like,
we
we
can't
need
coexist with each other.
exactly. So I'm like, I don't agree with like getting
100%. I
all
can't.
of the Israeli
Not
Arabs
all of them,
in
no,
Israel,
not all of them. There's some really
but
cool. Like Muhammad could be Yosef Haddad, but the
of course,
problem is for every like one who are great, you'll have like
there's
ten
like a
thousand.
thousand, right?
Yeah,
There's a
that's the
thousand.
problem. That's the problem. My analogy, the Abraham Accords have shown we could be neighbors, but we can't be roommates. I think that's a good way to put it.
I like that. Well, I'll go even further. So, okay, let's just start with reclaiming Judea and Samaria, all of it, and reclaiming Gaza. Like, I'm not even like for like deporting the Israeli Arabs, like the ones who say that they're Israeli Arabs.
Reclaim all the ancestral homeland and take it from there, and like just and kill the bad guys too. Like go kill
Right.
all the. Yeah, I would be okay with just go destroy all of Hamas, just destroy them, their infrastructure, burn it off to the ground, completely obliterate them. I'd be cool with that.
But let me,
Like,
okay, so let me ask you a question about that because like I've actually pushed back on eliminating Hamas. So to me, like,
oh,
yes, like Hamas has a military wing that our brave soldiers are fighting. We've lost over 650 soldiers now, right? Because Israel doesn't want to carpet bomb. I think Gaza could have been won just with the IAF. Like there was no reason
yeah,
to
that's what I mean. Like we shouldn't risk our soldiers' lives. And I
exactly.
don't care if they have civilians there. I'm not risk like I would not risk. Oh, they have civilians. I'm not going to risk you to save their civilians who want to go up and murder us anyway. Blow the building up. Shit happens in war.
It is
If
so
their civilians die, they die.
it
That's
is
fewer
so
terrorists in the future to try to murder us. It's called a win-win.
That's so true. Like it is so, I'm like, I obviously know that you think the same thing. I look at the news whenever the soldier dies. I'm like, oh my gosh, 21,
They're
20, 19.
in the prime of their fucking lives, and they could have been avoided. They didn't have to die. What about when we opened the Karen Shalom crossing into Gaza and remember the four soldiers who died as soon as Hamas heard that? What did they do? Sent a missile, fucking blew them up. If I was this, I'm really part of me wants to affect Americans. I don't want my kids to serve only because I don't want them. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I couldn't even no like not like I'll tell my kids if we're still here then like I don't care what you're like if your commander's lip jar, I'll fucking listen to him. I don't care. Like if you need to kill a bad guy, fucking kill him. You know what I mean? I'll take care of you. I don't care if you can never get a job the rest of your life. I'll fucking take care of you. I don't care. Like you know what I mean? You're like you're my son. You're my
No,
daughter.
that's
I
no,
love you more than anything in the world. I don't give a shit. Do what you have to do to stay alive. Like whatever it takes. Fuck
that's
the
true.
fuck the Israeli Supreme Court. Fuck the Israeli Supreme Court. You know what I mean? Seriously.
No, I get it. Like I'm 41 now, and so I'm looking at these ages. I'm like the 19 to 20, that could have been my son if I started having kids at like 20 years old. I'm like, oh my gosh, like that could have been those could have been my children at that young age. It is disgusting. So my question is, okay, so again, I don't love CC. I know he's also in a really tough position. What exactly is going on with Rafia and the coordination or non-coordination with Egypt? Do you have any insight on that?
Too much. I know we waited a long time to go in till we got the green light,
Mhm.
and sort of like, I mean,
And that was disgusting that there even needed to be a green light to go in.
you don't need it. Yeah, are you an independent country or not? You know, do you need permission from America to do everything? Are we the 51st state? No, but we act like it. And
Right.
again, if that's the case, cancel the weapons deal, the 3.8 billion. America benefits from that more than Israel does. It's
Oh,
basically a
of
joint
course.
partnership.
Yeah.
Cancel that shit if that's what it takes. I mean,
Wait,
what?
can we just add? I'm sorry, Brandon. I don't mean to interrupt, but interject.
Careful.
Just again, like for the audience. So for those who don't know, Israel gets not just Israel, but when we give weapons aid, to countries, they get our older weapons. Like we're not giving away new weapons, right? And so the reason why Israel actually gets the short end of the stick because they're getting these older weapons, and then Israel has to retrofit all of the weapons to the standards of the IDF, which is always obviously changing, and then all of the R&D that Israel develops for these weapons then has to share with America for free.
America. So America gets the very technology, which is worth more anyway.
Exactly. So it's screwed over. So like when we and by the way, I have to admit this. I'm on the right, and so we have a growing isolationist movement. Which like on one hand, I understand they were so traumatized from 100 billion plus going to Ukraine,
I get
which
that.
different kind of war. I also hate when people compare what's going on in Gaza, what's going on with
Is
Ukraine.
Ukraine really an ally versus Israel being an ally? Who do you need
Not,
more?
not
Israel
only
or
that,
Ukraine?
okay, also Israel's a real country. Ukraine is the Jordan of Eastern Europe, if we're really going to be honest.
Uh,
What is Ukraine? It's half Poland and half Russia. Literally, its population is half more Polish Slavic and half ethnic Russians. Not a real country, like at all. And actually, Zelensky didn't even speak Ukrainian growing up. Like he had to have a Russian tutor because that's how anti-Ukrainian the Russians were. Like I have a housekeeper who is Ukrainian, and stop me because I can go on like for an hour about this alone. So she lived in Kharkov, which is being bombed by Putin now. So they hate Putin, but before they loved Putin. And she was saying that our whole region like refused to speak Ukrainian. She said that Ukraine was on the cusp of a civil war. You know, and
from
so
the Donbass region. She's from the Donbass region.
yeah. Well, no, even like Eastern
Oh,
Ukraine, that
East.
was not even right. Then, well, it's close to the Donbass, but it's not like actually in the Donbass. Then she was saying that the Ukrainian language is not even like a real language. Like they literally mishmashed Russian with Polish and made it like a language.
I have no idea about any of this. I have no
Yeah.
clue.
Yeah, I also learned a lot. So Ivri is a real language. We are like an actual ethnicity of that region. So I don't understand why people compare. And also like we can get into the whole we're not, but I have posted a lot how Ukraine caused the war. And I'm not saying that Putin was right how he reacted, but Ukraine did a lot to piss off its
Oh,
neighbor.
I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
based on innocentness, like
No,
and again,
no.
I'm not excusing it. I'm definitely
Right.
not pro Putin or I'm not
I'm
pro
not
anything.
proud, but like am not I'm against both because both hated Jews. Like if they want to like kill each other, I really don't care. What I care about is so the isolationist movement of the right in America is growing. It's a very loud faction. But what they don't realize, we're not giving Israel $3.5 billion dollars
3.8 billion.
or
Yeah, they don't
3.8.
do it.
Yeah. We're
Whatever,
not
say that,
we're
whatever.
not giving that money to Israel.
That's what
That
they think it is. They think they're giving it like it's USA giving money to like Chad in
or
Africa. It's not the
Haiti,
same
right?
thing.
It's
It's
not.
not. It's
We're
a
literally
joint partnership, and America benefits way more. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
sorry. So what it is, it's the valuation of the weapons
Mhm.
before Israel retrofits the weapons. And so if we're really going to be honest, the US is basically making probably a couple $1 billion on that technology upgrade
Yeah.
every time that they do those deals. So it's yeah. But anyway, so with CC, like actually, okay, I know like I shouldn't say this, but like please don't hate me if I say this. Um, I'm actually like afraid to like say this publicly. I kind of smidgenly, like a little tiny, tiny, tiny bit. I kind of feel sorry for CC in a way.
Why?
Well, like think about his position, right? So he has Israel, which by the way, like let's also give credit. He's not like attacked Israel. He's not, like contributed to the, to an anti-Israeli hostility. By the way, have you noticed that there are no protests in Egypt against Israel? They've kind of squashed that.
No, I didn't really.
No.
Yeah, I
Right,
didn't know
right,
anything about it. You're right. Good point.
right.
I never heard about that.
Anyway, I kind of, again, little bit, it's teeny tiny feel bad. So again, because he has obviously 100% Arab, well, 90%, 95% Arab population, because we have Coptic Christians there also, who they
It used
obviously,
to be the majority, but that's a whole other story.
a
That's
whole other story. We can also get into, yeah, a lot. And how actually the Coptic Christians are the direct descendants of the ancient Egyptians.
ancient Egyptians. Uh-huh. Yeah.
They're the natives. For those who would like to know native peoplehood. Anyway, so the reason I feel bad for him, so he killed the Muslim Brotherhood in his country. Well, not he directly. He had his, henchmen kill the Muslim Brotherhood. Those who he did not kill are sitting in real Egyptian prisons, rotting away. Okay. And he finally had terrorism contained. Because remember, Hamas was not only against Israel, was also against Egypt, right? Against the
Right.
non-Muslim Brotherhood Egyptian rulers. So Mubarak, obviously Sisi, they were for Morsi, obviously, but not Sisi. So he had everything contained, everything was going great. Now you have this war, you have potential 2.5 million refugees. And yes, they're mostly his people, mostly, but they're so radicalized. He cannot afford to have any of those occupier rats in his country. He just can't. So in a way, like what is he supposed to do, right? So
You're a dictator. Your position is
right.
tenuous enough as it is.
And not only that, but he has to like, he's doing well, okay, we're gonna go there. He's doing what Bibi
Should
and
be doing.
Lapid and Bennett should have done and do everything in their possibility to protect their people. So when I was in Egypt, first of all, there are checkpoints everywhere. You drive from Alexandria to Cairo, checkpoint. You go down to the south, Karnak region, where a lot of the pyramid, no, not the pyramids, the tombs are. There were 10 checkpoints my mom and I went through in one day, 5 there, 5 back. And these are not Israeli checkpoints because I've been to Israeli checkpoints. They like look in the car, maybe they'll have you like get out. No, everyone get off the bus, take your bag with you. Men in one line, women in the other. A female soldier checks you in every crevice that only like your boyfriend or husband should be checking you in. That's how like,
Mm.
detailed they go. Your bag is completely empty. Like you're patted down, right? Like as if like you're going to some like secure government site. And I've like been in rooms with President Trump and have been frisked by, or have been patted down by our security service here, Secret Service. Nothing compared to what I had in Egypt. So
Yeah.
so someone asked, like, oh, so do the Egyptian people, are they annoyed but so many checkpoints? Like in one neighborhood, you could even have multiple checkpoints. And our Egyptian guide said something so accurate. He's like, so the the government doesn't care because the whole point of having a government, having a good leader is to protect its people. So whether it takes 30 checkpoints, 50 checkpoints, we don't care if it takes 5 hours to get somewhere. That's actually why traffic is horrendous in Egypt. Our people are now safe and they weren't before, right? Because there were terrorist organizations running amok. That's all Israel had to do. It's like they put up a checkpoint in Judea and Samaria. The assholes in the US cry about it. Okay, fine. Like we're not going to include
What?
Like, you know, in Egypt, you cannot even take pictures of checkpoints. You cannot take pictures of the snipers. You can't take pictures of anyone in military, no police officers, obviously no military uniforms, no government buildings. Like you don't even know because you're just like, oh, I'm passing by, right? You have your camera, and then suddenly you get a tap on your shoulder, like put your phone down. Like, okay, you
You know what
know?
happened? That reminds me when I was in Budapest one time. There's this famous synagogue there. I took a picture of it. The dude rushed right up to my phone and maybe delete it. I was like, dude, I'm like, bro, I'm
I'm a
like,
jail, right?
I'm a Jew. Like I'm just taking a picture. It's a nice synagogue. That's it. Maybe delete it from my phone. I'm like, wow. Like this is trying to
Yeah.
remind me of that. Like,
Yeah,
but we
it's
don't do that here. Our security is not that secure apparently. Like again, I don't go to those areas. I'm too afraid to. Like straight up. Like I got kids. You know. I
right.
haven't been. It's pathetic. I haven't been to Jerusalem in like 7 years. I need to go take the kids sometime. We just
Oh my
haven't
gosh,
gone.
I love Jerusalem. But that's
It's
what I mean. Like
amazing.
I was in Hebron, right? Like I saw that scary.
I haven't been to Hebron. I'm afraid to go, dude, because like
Oh no,
it's
it's
not
actually
safe.
it's actually like really safe because you had the scariest looking army presence there I had ever seen. Like the guns, like Brandon, you have never seen guns this big in your life. Like I think it's called, oh my gosh, I'm probably going to get a lot of comments if I get this wrong. It's an Israeli manufactured or Israeli invented gun. I think it was called like the Travor. Like it's huge. Like like this one guy that got on our bus with it, like it was half his size, and he was on a small dude. I was like, I'm afraid of you. Anyway, so there. Wait, where was I going with this in terms of security? Bring me back here. Oh, okay, okay. So in terms of security, so
We should have that.
yeah, so we have the means. Oh yeah, this is what I meant. So I'm there with my camera in Hebron. I'm like literally taking a video of our military just because I'm curious, not because I want to put them in danger. Everyone on our tour bus was doing that. Why is that allowed? Because in Egypt, you would get your ass hauled to jail if you're taking pictures
Right.
of their military. So the point is this. So I'm just like wondering, do you think there's some coordination, cooperation? Oh, and another thing, Sisi, by the way, you know, like everyone's blaming Egypt for like hiding the tunnels that were going that they found, you know,
I,
from they were not,
I forgot that they flooded them. I'm not gonna lie, because there's so
yeah,
much in the news. I completely
right.
forgot. But it's right. You posted it. They
Yeah,
flooded them a few years ago. They knew about them. It shouldn't be brand new.
like and that's what I said. If I knew that CC, well, he didn't flood all of them. He flooded some of them with like, obviously he's not going to flood 50 tunnels, right? But whatever tunnels they found at the time, he flooded with sewage. So if I knew about it as this like random Jew in America, then I know for it damn sure that the Israeli government knew that there were tunnels there. So if Israel and Egypt equally have a blockade or had a blockade equally, why wasn't Israel flooding tunnels? Why wasn't Israel like they had a fairly, by the way, BB saved Cece's financial ass because he actually not gave, but like there was like a financial deal with Cece. His economy was faltering. So he like, you know, kind of bailed them out. So in a way, like there's an IOU with Cece. So that should kind of be like worked out in some kind of capacity, right? Like I don't know. There's a lot going on there. I think with the Griffia.
Well,
Yeah. So I don't know. And then what do you think is the plan for Gaza post-war? Because I'm getting information all over the place.
did I tell you what one of the plan was? Was basically the Oslo Accords 2.0. So this is what I heard. Again, don't quote me. I don't know all the specifics. I'm not an expert. But what I heard was this is Gallant's plan, and of course it's stupid, was to like kind of screen out the good Gazans from the bad Gazans and try to figure out which ones are good and like give them guns and weapons to let them govern them. This is what I heard. I gotta look at the details, and it's like 3 in the morning by times. I don't know all the specifics, and I'm too tired to research it. But this is what I heard, and based on other dumb shit that the IDF apparatus has done and BB's done, it would not surprise me. Which is it should be like that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my life. Like how about you just kick them all out and you govern it and let Jewish land. How about just govern it yourself instead of giving it to people who want to murder you and just murdered like a bunch of your people? And you can't trust the civilians. We've seen the videos. The civilians they're the ones who killed them. But you know,
And
uh,
I just feel so bad for the IDF because I follow a lot of like IDF soldiers and like, you know, some are posting. Well, obviously the ones who can post are not posting. So like, I don't want anyone to think that
yeah,
they're going against orders. But like, you know, we have videos, right? Like from the IDF. And so, but I also like follow the soldiers who are putting up Israeli flags all over Gaza, who are bringing in Torah scrolls into Gaza, who are rebuilding some Beit Knesset, which is Hebrew for synagogues in
Mhm.
Gaza,
Yep.
right? There were so many synagogues there. I know for a fact they want Gaza to be reclaimed to Jewish land. So do you think there could ever be this like mass, for lack of a better word, like revolt by the soldiers who were serving Gaza, like if Bibi or whoever else like goes the opposite direction?
If we get a leader and get IDF leadership that are more like Kahanis, or and I'm not, this is not to take a shot at anybody who's like secular or not atheist, but like, I don't, they don't have to be like, they have to at least believe in Hashem, believe this is Jewish homeland. Because not to say people are like there are secular Zionists who are amazing. Like I'm considered secular. Yeah, exactly. You exactly. Say you. But if you're like atheist, you don't believe in any of it. You're more likely to give the land away, like Bibi. You know what I mean? Like Bibi when he was like, I mean, not even like that's not the right way of saying it. But I think if we get somebody who's more like a hardcore, like a Kahanist or somebody who like just
Right.
believes that the land is Jewish land, then maybe we could do it. But we got to, it has to be like across the board leadership. Like you got to
Wait,
get
but why
Galan
does
out
it?
of there. You got to get Bibi out of there. You got to get people who have
Right.
this mentality, like let's reclaim it all and to hell with the world thing. Stop worrying about the world things. Like, you give them aid, they're still they're accusing you of genocide when you've killed like when the actual numbers are going to come out, it's more like 5,000 civilians and like 20,000 plus terrorists. Which just to put that in perspective,
It's not
not only
enough.
is that not genocide, that's the lowest percentage of civilians killed like per capita in the history of urban combat warfare. I mean, I'm just I might be wrong, but I'm pretty
And
sure it has to be.
it's true. And I also hate how there's Jewish, oh my gosh, like I don't know if we have enough time to talk about like the grifters and all these like Zionism influencers like all over social media. They're like always posting about these stupid like numbers like, oh, the UN finally lowered the. I'm like, you should want the death toll in Gaza to go freaking high because those are people who murdered your people and would not hesitate to murder you. So when I saw that those numbers were, obviously reversed, I was like, oh my gosh, like why? Why are
Yeah.
there not more?
Yeah,
Like
like
that's what I'm
in a
saying.
good way, I would, but based on the current situation, I don't want it to be high because it's only going to be used against us. I only want it to be high if we're actually going to do something about it. I'd rather have it to be high and then that's it, done.
It's
Like
just
we had a get out of jail free card. We
right.
completely get out of jail free card on October 7th. Like we had the green light to do whatever the fuck we wanted, and no one would have done shit. And they couldn't because if you just go there and just kick their freaking ass before anybody can respond, before the UN can send their peacekeepers, like and you have your people like your Rachel Corries and your UN peacekeepers or whoever the fuck gets in the way before they can do anything, it's all done. And we had the capability to do it.
Do you
Just
know?
bomb them into submission, like starve them out, put a siege
Right.
there, and we could have done it. It was been done. And even for Gallant, for all his faults, and he's an idiot, he at least was right about that. Like,
Right.
he was right about putting us because the siege, I'm not a
You said
military
that that
expert.
was the only.
It works throughout history. A siege always works because you starve them out. They have no food. There's no water coming in. They're human. They need that shit. If you starve them out, they're going
Our
to
hostages,
capitulate.
our hostages would have been released. I'm like, yeah, like maybe not all
They
of them
would
not alive, but
give
with
them
their
food. You're giving
bodies
them a
back.
fucking lifeline. Why would they give them back to you?
I so
It's
that so
common
that's
sense.
so that's the thing. Like, I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I hope I have not during this
No,
podcast. I okay, this is like hard to admit. I'm embarrassed that 7 months out, we still have hostages in Gaza and maybe even in Egypt. I'm embarrassed. Like I'm not sad. I'm embarrassed
I'm
because
angry.
like you said, like we easily could have had those hostages out months ago. We could like the ones that are dead who are murdered could have even gone out alive with the
The
siege.
longer this goes on, the more they're going
Right.
to be dead because they
Mhm.
can't keep alive and move them and still stay alive. Like they become a liability. Like no, I'm more angry at our government than I am at the. You can't blame the terrorists for being the evil people for being evil. That's what they do.
That's the thing. It's like, okay, so Hamas literally has been promising a genocide for 2 decades. Like literally they've been saying like we're gonna murder you, we're gonna murder
They
you.
just tell you who they are. We know who they are.
It was not a surprise. Like, okay, even okay, like I'm not gonna okay, I'm also not one of those people. I don't think, I couldn't even like follow these people. They were like, well, Netanyahu stood down on October 7th. He wanted those Jews to be murdered in order to
Just an excuse to invade it. If
right.
that was the case, then why have we done it? Bullshit.
I don't believe in that. I don't believe.
I don't
I think
either.
the only evil Jew who I think would do that
Ehud Barak.
is Soros.
Oh, okay. I was
Like
Hooper,
the only one.
Hooper.
I don't think even he would. You think he would?
Yes,
You do. Okay.
I do.
I okay. I don't know enough to disagree with you, but I know
I
for
don't know a lot about him, but yes, but I do know. Yes, absolutely. I think he would do it.
okay. But
And
I
Norman Finkelstein.
well, yeah, but I'm saying that
But that goes without saying.
right,
That doesn't
right,
really count. Yeah.
obviously. But I know for a fact in my heart, as much as we've been, like getting into BB and all his faults, I don't think that he has that evil inside of him. Like I think he does have like a Jewish
No,
trauma.
I don't.
He would
Yeah, I
not
don't.
stand down
No,
in
no, no,
army.
no. I would never say
I don't
that.
think he would. I don't think
I
he
think
would.
there might. I think there's a possibility, a strong possibility. There's a traitor within the government or somebody like
Right.
even like Charlie Kirk said he was called anti-Semitic. We're saying there was a standout orderly. Dude, Charlie Kirk is not anti-Semitic, dude. Like he's like one of the most very, very pro.
He was no, but he was shocked. He's like, well, we know like Israel's the best with intelligence. Like, how the hell did they
Here's the
not
best
know?
intel. Why was it 6 hours? Why was it 6 hours? And that's a legitimate question.
Yeah, which I hope
That's
that they're gonna flush.
legitimate.
I want to know. I'm like, where was the army? Like I get like obviously the bases that were on the border were being, attacked horrendously, but we have an army the rest of the country. Like, how come they didn't like get in? Like, I mean, the only thing I can think of is like, okay, so if they could send air power, they didn't want to murder other Jews, right? Like to bomb from the air, but then they should have come in from the ground. Like a lot has a huge army base, right? Like not that far.
Yeah, that's true. I
Yeah,
don't
like,
know.
I think
I
that's
don't
gonna be
know.
flushed out. Yeah.
But it's okay to ask questions. And it's not anti-Semitic or like
No.
anti-BB to ask questions. That's a legit question. What the
No,
fuck happened?
and also like Charlie Kirk, like he was just like curious. He's
Just
like
curious, like how could that
Like
happen?
Israel, right?
And he knows his shit. He's been
Yeah,
there. Like he knows more
yeah,
about than I do because he's been there. He's actually been there. Like
right.
and he's
He
like,
does.
I've been there. They have security up the butt. Like how could it happen?
He does such a great job too of like and I hate using the word defending because Israel's not like a little puppy. Israel's not like helpless even now. He's a good educator as for a non-Jew as you can ask for. I'll say
He's
that.
better than most Jews.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Right,
was sure. I just say like the ones who had like all the
right.
organizations. He
Oh
knows more
well,
than they
yeah,
do.
yeah, of course. So that's the thing. So do you think that the Israeli politicians will ever be held accountable for the genocide?
What happened? You mean like for the ICC or for like what happened to like for the Jewish people who got
Oh,
killed? It's
no,
like
no, no.
fuck the ICC. Like you're talking about like because never they're accusing us of genocide, which is nonsense. I just want to make sure we clarify also for the people listening. You're talking
Well,
about like
yeah.
for the people our people got massacred on October 7th for that.
Yeah. Well,
You
the
think
actual
how
first
they
of all, okay, first of all, there's a difference. So the Jews who were killed on October 7th, that was a genocide. That literally was targeting an ethnicity and a race and a faith. The people being, or the, to me, they're not even people. The subhumans being killed in Gaza is not a genocide at all.
no
First of all, they're different races. They are not being targeted because of who they are. They're being targeted because of what they
what they
did
did
and what
exactly
they
big
potentially
difference.
can do. So
No,
very
yeah, exactly. I know you know, and you know that I know. I just wanted to say that out
the
there because
audience, right?
there's so much people. There's so much. Whenever people think genocide now, because of all the bullshit in the media, they always think genocide. They go
Okay,
right
so
to Israel, which
you're
is
right.
absurd. It's such bullshit. But you know what I mean. Good.
Okay, so let
But
me clarify the Jewish genocide. So, are the Israeli leaders who dropped the ball on security measures, not just Netanyahu, I'm talking about across the board. Do you think there's ever going to be justice for them, like jail
like
time
internal investigation and see what happened and who like dropped the ball and everything.
and maybe jail time also?
I doubt it. I'm sorry. I doubt it. Do you? What do you think? What do you think? I'll hear what you think of that. Do you think anything can happen?
Okay, so I do know that the families of a lot of those who were murdered and the families of many hostages have been suing the security forces in Israel.
Okay.
If that's going to go anywhere, but they have every right to sue.
Absolutely, they do. But
Yeah.
I'm curious. Like, I just my wife's a lawyer. I don't know if she this isn't her area of law though. But I'm curious. Like, I don't know if I wonder how much you really can sue the government here versus like I
Hmm.
know in America you can sue the government, but
Right.
isn't there a certain point the government be like, "F you, we're not gonna give you the money"? Like, is there the government? Like, isn't there a certain point where they won't give you
No,
the
no,
money,
you
they
can
won't give
sue.
it to you?
No, in America, we're very litigious here, so you can sue.
Well, no, I know, oh, for sure. But like, it depends on what
On
certain
what
things you can sue,
grounds?
on
Right.
what grounds. Certain things you cannot. They'll be like,
True,
well,
true.
no.
Well, I guess like if they can prove beyond like a measure, beyond a beyond a doubt that
Like the Kennedy family can't sue the CIA for what I mean for the assassination for their part in the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Do you see where I'm going with this? Maybe like I know it's way out there and it's just like 3 in the morning, 3 in the morning something. But like I don't know. I mean, I hope they do sue them then so they can find out what the hell happened because somebody dropped the ball. I mean,
and it's many someone's and not just
maybe
one.
someone's, yeah.
And so, okay, so we've talked a lot about Gaza and we know what's going on. What is going on with Judea and Samaria? And do you think that anything's going to be done there? And I know that there were like 4,000 terrorists were arrested in Judea and Samaria in the weeks and the months after the Jewish genocide. But do they not realize that most of the Arab occupiers in Judea and Samaria support Hamas? Like that's why Abbas doesn't have elections. Like, yeah, he's a dictator, but he knows.
He's on the 20th year of his 4 year term or whatever, or
But
19th
do you
year
know
of his
what?
4 year
Yeah,
term.
but do you know why? Because he knows that his people would elect Hamas over him, and he would lose all the money and the power.
Yeah, he's lose that $13 million palace that he lives in.
Exactly. So
I think
that's
it's nice.
so that's the thing. It's like another genocide could be planned like right now as we talk from Judea and Samaria. It probably is. So do you think Israel has a plan to reclaim, do anything there?
Now with this leadership, no way.
Yeah.
No way.
It's very
You got to get
concerning.
new leadership. You got to get people who actually believe it's their land, others that won't give it away, and like, actually would like willing to do something and not care what the world thinks, and just kick their ass. And like, but it's not going to happen unless you get someone like we need. We got to get Ben
Ben
Gvir in there,
Gvir.
man.
I love
Ben
Ben Gvir.
Gvir.
But
Oh,
okay, so
shit.
better than Ben Gvir, I think, is Amihai Shikli. How do you pronounce his
This
last
is your boy. You told me about this
not
guy.
my man. He's my hero, even though he's not. Well, okay, he's the minister of diaspora and countering anti-Semitism. He's the only one that I've heard who had the balls to say that we need to eliminate. Use that word on X, by the way. We need. Well, no, sorry, he didn't say eliminate. He said we need to take care of the problem in Gaza and reclaim Gaza to be back to Jewish land, and he said to reclaim Judea and Samaria. Okay. So that's the leader. He's young, he's 42 years old, he's Persian Jew, and he's
Get him in there, dude. Get him in
saying the
there.
right things, right? And by the way, he's now making the rounds with some Jewish organizations here in America. So like hopefully like
Good.
that
Teach him
means
some shit.
something.
Teach him some things.
I hope so. I hope he's not gonna be like reverse. Like, oh, like I hear Herzl invented Israel or something like that.
Yeah. Persian
And
Jews are hardcore. They don't give a fuck. They don't bullshit. They're like, yeah, like Persian.
I hope
They know what we're up against. They know more than anybody.
Of course, of course. So, okay, also, I would be remiss if we didn't talk about this. So we talked about the Arab occupiers, obviously in Gaza, the Arab occupiers in Judea and Samaria. I've not heard much about the Arabs in Israel, like the Israeli Arabs. Like, what's going on with them right now, like post October 7th?
I don't really talk to much shows. I don't know.
Okay.
I kind of keep
Like
my. I
from
mean, I
like
do
what you hear,
some.
from like
Where I
what you
live is kind of like I live in a pretty chill place. It's very like not insulated, but like my like I'm not near like I'm in the Cryot. My area is chill. It's a good little suburb. We got our theater. We got our park. We got the soccer. Like it's very very it's like suburban. So I don't. I'm not like on the pulse of that. I bet they're the
and like,
same.
but anything like in the news,
The
like
ones who love to live here love it. They love us. The ones who probably hate us, they're probably the same. If
right.
anything, they just get more radicalized with this type of shit.
I
Just
mean,
like we saw like a few years ago. Remember, like when there was rioting in this country, where they
right,
were burning down
right.
like Ramleh and like maybe it's Lod. I want to say Lod, and there's some other places where they were like burning it down to the ground. Like the ones who are rioting, like the one who hate us, they're always going to hate us. And
Have
I
there
don't know if they
have there
change, but
been have there
I
been
don't know.
any like I heard that there were protests at Hebrew University, something about like Arabs, but like has there been anything else like across the country, or are protests just completely illegal
I don't
now?
know. I honestly have no idea about
Okay.
that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything about that. I'm
I'm
surprised you said Hebrew University, not Tel Aviv University, is where you usually have the libtards. Like the libtards would have like the Palestinian flag. That's usually Tel Aviv University where you see that.
Hebrew University apparently is fairly liberal also.
Great.
I think the only one we have left is like Ariel University and like what's that other one? With an
Technion? Is Technion still okay? For high
Yeah,
tech?
I've never heard of anything bad about that. But no, no. What's the one that like all the conservative Jews go to? It's help me out here. What's that like
Oh,
university?
is it not the one in the Negev? It's not let me think.
It's okay. It's late. I'll add to the
I don't
comment.
know. I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, I'm curious for later because I don't know where can my kids go to school that's safe. Like
Right.
I'm not like in America, like all the schools are off the list except for like if we ever move back.
Hillsdale and Liberty are
Hillsdale,
last.
Yeshiva, I think
Right.
University of Alabama, when they had some Jew hatred on their campus, they
The
squashed that
Frat
shit.
Boys.
Yeah.
The
No, but
Frat
didn't
Boys for
University
life.
of Alabama, didn't they squash it
Yeah.
like a couple of years ago?
Oh
They
yeah.
squashed it like immediately. They don't play that shit in Alabama.
Because you don't want to go against rednecks who are not for the libtards.
No, they're not. They don't play
Yeah.
that shit down south. Like I went to University of South Carolina, and even them, they have there's a Students for Justice for SJP is big there now, which is crazy.
Oh,
Like
oh, now, well, yeah, like now they've infiltrated everywhere. But there's this famous saying.
everywhere, dude.
There's this famous saying that Americans should not be worried about being taken over because we have rednecks. So it's kind
That
of
that that
it's
that will save America. That's
right.
not a joke. That's absolutely. I tell people that the only thing that will save America is the guns.
Rednecks.
That is
Yeah.
it. That is it. That is the
Mhm.
only thing that can save America.
Well,
That's
the
the
only thing
only
I
thing.
can think, so that actually is there's a corollary to that with Israel. The only thing I think would that would save Israel, like if really like push comes to shove, are the legal Jewish residents of Judea and Samaria because
They're
they
the
are
ones who have all the guns for the most
tough
part,
emer mother effers, and I know that they would not take shit for
and
sure.
they're packing heat all the time too.
Yeah. Well, I saw it. Like I was there with Chabad, and the Chabad rabbi had a gun, and his wife had a gun. I mean, unfortunately, they still had a terrorist attack like while they were packed. But yeah, like they all carry all of them. Of course,
You
you
have
have,
to.
yeah. The Jews in Jerusalem also like a lot of them carry because you have to. So I know that at least we have Judea and Samaria, well, Area C of Judea and Samaria. But you're right. And I think this is so important to talk about because I don't know whether it's like because of the war, like, these American Jews either are anti-Israel or anti-Netanyahu because they think he hasn't brought home the hostages by agreeing to a ceasefire. So it's like a whole other issue. Like I hate how they're like, bring them home now, bring them home. Like, why do you think the idea, well, no, the IDF is not in Gaza only because of the hostages. Obviously, the IDF is there for retribution against, what happened to make sure that another October 7th doesn't happen. But the hostages are very much on the forefront with why the IDF also is there. But the war would not be over if the hostages were released. That all also got all
Yeah,
taken
that's
off.
like no,
Yeah,
that's we got our people back. Now let's go kick. Now let's go kill. But no, I think
exactly.
the bigger issue I think is that most American Jews they make this false distinction. A lot of Jewish influencers, a lot of Jewish like influencers, and people who are like they're saying how like, oh, we have to remember that Israel's at war with Hamas and that most of the people in Gaza don't support Hamas. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
80%,
Every
80%.
poll.
It shot up. It was 57% before October 7th. Then it went to 71%. Now it's at 80%. Okay, and whatever. Okay, so forget about Hamas. So the ones who don't support Hamas, they're not pro-Israel. They're for Islamic Jihad, which is just as dangerous
Same
as
thing.
Hamas.
Yeah.
And okay, here's what I wanted to also add, like, but before we wrap up. Hamas, yes, has a military wing, but Hamas is also a concept, right? Like the EU, the anti-Semites in the EU, it's Hamas. Qatar, Hamas, right? Erdogan in Turkey, Hamas. Judea and Samaria, the Arab occupiers there, Hamas. Hamas is not like the Nazi army, like the German army that or okay, forget about that. It's not like the Egyptian army that Israel was battling in 48 and 67 and 73. This is a concept that yes, you can squash the actual military battalions, right? There's 24 battalions, but like it's like playing whack-a-mole. Like they're going to if we get out of Gaza, right, and not reclaim our land, the next Hamas is going to be created and refunded and stronger. There's Turkey, there's Qatar, there's Kuwait, Malaysia, the libtards of the EU, the libtards of the US. They're going to literally cradle and raise up the next Hamas. Like Hamas is like it's a concept. So in order not for this concept to reemerge and be this constant threat to Israelis, it's to reclaim our land. Like I just don't understand how this is so just not so cut and dry. Like and then that needs to be talked about. Like no one is really talking about that. Everyone's just like, beat Hamas, free Gaza from. I'm like, okay, and then what?
Yeah, Israel's at war with Hamas. They're not at war with all
Right.
Gaza. Most of the Gaza people don't support Hamas. Remember that. It's important to make the distinction between these. They're like, no, it isn't. Look at the polls, you idiot. Like, don't take your libtard bullshit and like it's been proven it's not true.
Right.
Like every poll says if you go with minimum 71% minimum, and it's more than that actually.
It's
That's the
80%
mindset.
now. 80% now.
80,
Yeah.
8 tenths. That's you can't get 80% of people to agree on anything.
On
You can get
anything. Right.
on anything, but
Right.
you can get them like that's who they are. And most American Jews, they don't understand that. They again because they don't understand what we're dealing with. They just don't. They don't.
And
But
it's not a left issue and it's not a right issue amongst American Jewry. It's such like a naivete that they don't actually agree. They're like, yeah, Hamas will be gone and everything will be fine and like we'll be free. We're gonna live next
yeah,
door.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then it'll be
And then
hunky dory again. And then the rest of the Gazans they'll be okay with us again. And it's fine. And they can
yeah,
have their own
of
state.
course.
So,
And then I don't know if you've seen this, and we'll wrap up on this. I see so many these stupid Zionism slogan Zionists who don't know what the hell they're talking about. And you're right. You mentioned that they're grifters off of October 7th. Like
they're
now
making a lot of money off this
they're
stuff. A lot of
making
people are making a lot of
money
money.
off of social media, content creation now. It's absolutely disgusting. Noah Tishby being one of them.
My friend, I
Chapman.
think she means well. I think she means well. No, Tishby. My wife actually likes her, but I'm like, really? But she's wrong in all her stuff, though. She's completely
Right.
wrong. Like, she'll say
Read her books.
she went to
All
Joe Biden's White House dinner. She says stuff all the time, like most of the Palestinians they don't support Hamas. It's like,
she
dude,
was
you're
on
wrong.
Bill Maher spewing misinformation. Bill
Yeah,
Maher has a huge platform here.
what's that?
Bill Maher was a huge platform here in America.
I know Bill Maher. Yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
He's like the
She
only
was
good liberal left.
right. She was on TV and like saying, "Oh, Palestine and Israel." I'm like, "Bitch, please." Basically,
I
like,
think she's from here. She's Israeli, but I don't think she's lived here for like at least 30 years. I think she's like,
oh,
you
so
know what I
she's
mean?
not native like Israel. She's not
I
Sabra.
think she's native here. I think so, but I don't think she lives here anymore. I think she's been in LA for a long time. I
Oh,
would
okay.
bet you
I
she
see.
was born here, but she's
Okay.
been in America her whole life. Because those are the ones. Okay, one thing I've noticed as well too. The only Israelis who who really support Bibi, think Bibi's like a really right winger. Usually they were born here, but they haven't lived here anymore. Like they haven't lived here for at least 30 years. But that's just what I've noticed, and that's
Yeah.
why they think Bibi's right wing. I'm like, he's
So
not.
what I hate with these slogan signs do, besides forget the fact they're saying Jews and Palestinians, Israel and Palestine, as if those are separate things.
Yeah.
Free Gaza from okay. Anyway, what I hate that they're doing now, they're showing videos within Gaza that are like, yeah, like we got Hamas is stealing our aid, blah blah blah. Okay, fine. They're saying that, but it doesn't mean that they're going to like be pro-Israel. They're just saying the fact that Hamas is stealing their aid doesn't mean that they're going to be non-jihadist pro-Israel. So like all those videos are so misleading, but they're showing it to you like, see, look, not all Gazans support
Oh,
Hamas.
I didn't know about this phenomenon, this development. I
It's
never heard
been
of this
going
crap.
on for months. It is so
I didn't realize.
disgusting.
I never saw that angle.
Look, here's the difference. What we saw in Iran, right? Like obviously, first of all, the Iranian regime far more dangerous. I mean, far more brutal than Hamas against its people, right? Like they hang people. We see that.
Brains.
But the Iranian people have been not all of them, but 80% as of now are anti-regime, right? So you have these brave people led by women,
Completely different. Completely different than the Gazans.
completely different. Gazans had 20, no, not even 20 years. This didn't start with Hamas. Before Hamas, there was the first Intifada in 1987 under Israeli rule. Before that, the under Egyptians, they were not like, protesting anything. So this was not like just Hamas. Like Hamas emerged from that population, right? Like who's Hamas? Those Arab occupiers.
Right.
It's homegrown. So they had ample opportunity. Okay, fine. And then Hamas comes in, it's even more brutal. So these people have had 20 freaking years to protest. They've had what, like a couple hundred protesters in the past like 2 years. So that means that the majority of that population supports what they stand for. Because you can overrun a brutal occupation, let's say you want to call it that, even though Hamas didn't really occupy. By the way, okay, before we go, because this
They
has to,
voted him in, but
they voted them
okay.
in a landslide. They were
Landslide.
elected in a landslide election. Okay,
This is who they are. This is who they
exactly,
are. This is not
exactly.
like it's not like the Iranian regime, which is holding the people captive.
Which
It's not the
actually,
same.
right, because first of all, they didn't vote in the Ayatollah. The Ayatollah like literally
Yeah.
like over.
Thanks, Jimmy Carter. I can't wait for him to die. By the way,
Oh, me too, me too. Every time it's like,
like
oh, like he
he's almost
survived.
dead. I'm like, damn, he's not dead yet. I'm like, come on, motherfucker, hurry up and die, yo.
And
Why don't we start medication? Die.
you know that he's gonna get a state sponsor, like a state like few. Oh, I'm like, oh my God, like I'm gonna be
Someone
so
should call it a
pissed.
bomb threat.
You know. Anyway, so the point is that yeah, like the Iranians like at least were brave. The Hamas, like you can have, let's say, 500,000 people storming Hamas headquarters could have overrun, let's just say, right? They didn't have 500,000 people to stand up to that. They didn't have 100,000. They didn't have 1,000. You had a couple hundred people very recently, right before the war, speak up against Hamas. So that means that the population is 1,000% complicit. And how dare these stupid Jewish slogan Zionism influencers, I hate that term, trying to reverse psychology what the population actually is.
Because they're again, this is why it goes back to they're projecting Jewish values onto people who don't share the fucking values, dude. Like they don't share your values. You have no idea who you're dealing with. You all don't. You have no clue. Like these
Exactly.
people, like and they just don't get it because it doesn't fit into their worldview. So because they don't understand like how people could just be that evil, want to murder. So they have to. That's why like the people like, oh, maybe we give them better economic opportunity. They want to kill us. We'll pull out of Gaza and we'll and like Gaza was a beautiful when it was run by they had all these greenhouses. It was really
Mhm.
nice. When of course when it was under Israeli when Israel was there it's Jewish land, but you know what I'm saying when it's like
Right, right.
officially in the past,
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying, like I don't
I do, I do. Yeah.
yeah. um but yeah, they just say stupid shit like, oh, it's going to be I just lost my train of thought. Yeah, it's
No,
like
I know what you mean. Right. Like so it's just like it's this bastardized version of Tikkun Olam, which we like I
oh
cannot
my
stand.
god, that's not a fucking religion. Tikkun olam, it's not. And Tikkun olam is supposed to make the world better. Like being, if you're kind to the cruel, you're going to be cruel to the kind, and
Kind.
that's the problem. Is what we're
Mhm.
doing is that we're doing that. Like what's his name? Sinwar. He was dead. He was dead. He had a brain tumor. Dead. Let's save his life. That doesn't make you smart. That doesn't make you a good person. That's that's your hurt. That's when you're like I said. That's you're cruel. You're kind to the cruel. You're cruel to the kind. And because of that, these are not the type of people who are like, maybe I should rethink. These people saved me that I tried to murder. Maybe I should rethink. That's what a human being would do. These
Right.
we're not dealing with human beings here.
We're not. Those are subhuman rats. Like there's
You
nothing
kill
else.
them. Yes.
Not only
Let
that,
them die. Let them die. You don't have to kill them. Let them die.
right,
Or another way,
siege on Gaza. Yeah, should have been.
not just that, but operating on terrorists in the hospitals. There was like an Ichilov though, after the October 7th, after one of the attacks, they tried to bring a terrorist in the hospital to be operated on, and the director was like, "You are not bringing him into my fucking." I forget the guy's name because of the G Gaza. He's like, "You are not
Right.
bringing him into my hospital. I'm not. We're not going to operate on. We're not going to do it. We're going to save our people, who actual victims.
Right.
We're not going to save this guy. I'm not going to do it. You're not." He was the director of the hospital. Like, get the fuck out of here. I don't care.
Did you
I
see
would,
the
I
video?
would bet money if I'm in Vegas. What do you think? Do you think he'd be Ashkenazi Jew or Mizrahi Jew?
Mizrahi,
Of
of
course.
course. Okay, so did you see the videos? This was like in the days after the genocide. The Israelis were coming into hospitals and like lynching the terrorists themselves that were trying to get treated at the hospitals because of
Good.
course, yeah, the fact that the hospitals were even bringing them in, it's a crime.
Again, that's not tikkun. That's being stupid. That's not being good. That's not being righteous. Like
Right.
like again, not to get like too religious, but what does the Torah say? You're supposed to destroy your enemies. You're not supposed to,
Rise, yeah, the Torah. So I agree. The Torah says rise to kill. It doesn't mean like go kill randomly or indiscriminately. It says when you know that your community is in danger, that you yourself in danger, your family, you make sure that you're taking care of the problem.
destroy your enemies. Or at
Right.
the very least, if they're going to die, let them die.
Mhm. And by the way, my Chabad rabbi told me that what the Torah says, rise to kill. And he
I didn't
also,
know that.
yeah,
I
and
just know
also
he
like
says you're supposed to destroy Amalek, men, women, children, livestock, like everything, obliterate them.
anything that threatens you. And he also was saying, like, I didn't know this about the Rebbe, how militant, in a very pro-Jewish way, like he was, right? Like very Zionist and like if Israel has enemies, go and destroy them. Like
Destroy them, yes.
don't give away land for peace and all this other bullshit that we've been
Yeah.
acting with. Yeah. So I think this
But
is
even
a
Menachem Begin was Likud. He was actually probably the last like. Is it fair to say was he the last like Likud? But even he gave away land for peace, which is a mistake. But he's still better than like the other guys. At
right.
least he didn't ask for the U.S. for permission to blow up Iraq's nuclear facility. He didn't ask.
And also
Although,
if we're going to be historically honest, the Sinai technically, I'm going to piss off a lot of people when I say this.
okay,
Historically, the Sinai did not belong to Israel.
to Israel, okay,
It did not. Of course, like we had control of it and we had every right because like we won it in a defensive war after we were attacked. So yes, there's contention like should he have given away? Not, but at least like we didn't disengage like Ariel Sharon did from our own land or
right.
the Oslo terrorist accords under Rabin under our own lands. So
He
I'll
got
give
sick right after that too and died, didn't he? Right after he did that, didn't he get sick and die right after that?
Menachem Begin.
No, Ariel Sharon. Once he gave it away, I
Yeah,
think he got
yeah.
like sick and died. Like
I think that was the hand of God for that.
I
But
think so
that's the thing. It's
too.
like we have these like strong, army generals, and they all make for the worst prime ministers. Like I don't understand. Like you're this like tough guy. Ariel Sharon was nicknamed what the lion, right? All of that, and then you go and literally
Do they
support
get corrupted by the office? Does the office corrupt them? Maybe is there
terrorism.
something? Is that what it is, or like
There needs to
I
be a
don't know.
psychological evaluation on the past lives of prime ministers. But no, I think this is a really enlightening conversation because we need to stop hiding what's actually going on and stop like this whole not you I'm obviously talking like in general this whole like naivete like oh yeah as soon as Hamas is defeated all is going to be fine and kumbaya. No, we really need to know and address the reality of the situation. So thank you so much. I
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed this conversation,
Me
and
too.
I know for a fact that the audience listening will have learned a lot. Will learn more information, and hopefully, people's eyes will start to open.
Hope so.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Good
Bye.
night. Good morning.
Good night. Good morning.
All
Bye.
right. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.